Oh no, it has opened up Rumble straight away at the same time. It has.
They are getting better, so
Yeah. And welcome to a gaming conversation with friends. We're back again. We are. Sorry about last week, but family illnesses and so on. It's couldn't be avoided, so I had to skip last week. But right, we are supposed to be live on Rumble, but it's not gone live on Rumble. I've messed that up.
you're live on YouTube's.
Right, that's all right then. That's all right then. For some reason, it's not gone live on Rumble, and it should be live on Rumble.
I still think you just need to get the multi plugin that you utilize. You just need to put in the correct stream key, and it will automatically do it for you.
Yeah, I've.
Because I think that's what you're trying to do 2 streams at once, effectively.
Yeah, it's reconnecting now. Yeah, it was paused. Now it's reconnecting. But that's my fault. It says it's live now. Waiting. Oh, God knows. Anyway, we'll go on with the show on YouTube. How are we doing, everyone?
Well, should we introduce our guest first?
Yes, I will. How are you doing, Luke Steele? It's been a while since you've been on the show.
It has. Yeah, no, I'm very well, thank you, and thank you for the invite.
No, it's always good to have you on. It is.
He says that, but when you go on, he's like, "Oh, for crying out loud!"
No, it's always good to have you on. It is definitely. It's there's some games VJ wants to hear thoughts on in this show. I'm sure you'll give them. You will. Final Fantasy is one of them.
Yes, many.
Hasn't
many
Luke
thoughts.
completed that?
Oh God, no!
Well, I could just keep
too big a game for me to complete. But yeah,
it can give impressions, can't it? What he thinks of it so far.
I played a lot, but probably not as much as VJ. I'd be interested to know how many hours VJ's got in it.
He's probably hitting around the 400 mark. You know what VJ's like.
Yeah, he hasn't even got it.
What?
VJ is being suspiciously quiet. I suspect he's probably having making a cup. No, he's making a cup of tea. Oh, it is.
I was just grabbing a tea. Sorry.
Sorry.
I've just told Luke you haven't got Final Fantasy.
No, I haven't picked it up yet. I was just waiting to. I played the demos through the 2 demos, and then I just was kind of waiting for Daz and Luke to give me their opinion because I played the original remake a couple of times through. Once on the PS4. And I was telling Removable when I played it again on the PS5, it was almost like playing a different game for some reason. Perhaps it's the frame rate or the polish added to it over the years or so. And then I don't know what I was playing. I think it was God of War.
And then it was God of War because you said that was the thing that was kind of putting you off slightly. You was getting that RPG and all that large amount of time.
Yeah, just like after I played the Final Fantasy demo, it was like, you know what, I feel like I've just played this game, sort of almost. So I thought, then I started playing Persona 3, I think, which I'm kind of about 80 odd hours in at the moment. So then I thought, okay, you know what, I've played the demos. I'll wait to hear from Luke and Daz and stuff and see what I think Masuko's playing it at the moment, and just to get your thoughts really in terms of comparison to the first one. And what it's like now that the fact it's gone a little, well, I guess super wide linear or open world. So yeah, take it away, Luke.
We'll get into. I just got to introduce you and Removable first.
Well, bloody hell, people don't know us by now. I don't know what to expect.
Well, it's part of the show, isn't it? And Dad is giving you crap in chat, saying disgraceful VJ, buy it. He's saying. And welcome to PC.
He's waiting for the Daz review. That's what it is.
Pinky of Legend
as well.
Yeah. Welcome. But yeah, welcome back, Removable Sanity.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here. Obviously, good to see that our infamous professional Luke is on the stream and podcast stream. What am I saying? Podcast.
We're on Rumble now. It's working. It is working. Yeah, it was to start with. My phone.
Just echoing the professionalism there, removal for
It
you.
is. It is. Yeah.
You always know
And,
that this is not a professional podcast.
Rumble.
And also, Daz mentioned that he will be reviewing it once done. So, VJ, there you go. Should be okay.
Fantastic.
Nice.
But before then, you can clearly get Luke's impressions already. And what better way to segment into
Yeah.
than ask Luke himself to describe how he is either enjoying or not enjoying the game.
There we go.
Very good.
There we go.
That's it. No, it's very, very good. I'm about 33 hours into it at the moment.
Cool, blimey. So that's chapter 3 done.
Yeah. Well, for some people that is chapter. That's like just 2 chapters. I mean, some people are getting like mammoth play times from this, and I can sort of understand why. Because it's a vast game. It is a really big game. I mean, I'm 33 hours and I'm only about 62% through the main story with that, and I've been doing like a fair bit of side content, doing the world activities and such, and a few side quests here and there. But I've been trying to take my time with it, which so 33 hours in is taking my time with it. But I've seen people not even get to the same chapter that I'm on and have like 65 hours in it. So I don't know quite how they're doing that, but I guess if you're doing absolutely everything that the world has and you're really going around it slow and you're not fast traveling, then you could probably easily get to that. So I mean, I guess when VJ plays it, it'll be like a 325-hour playthrough or something, extrapolating the maths. But it's a phenomenal game. You know, it's a fantastic game. I played obviously the remake and Integrate as well, and I love those. This kind of, you know, takes all of that and just expands on it in the open world setting, really. God of War is an interesting comparison because I think that it probably is a bit like that in some sense, because I mean, VJ, you played the demo, so you know, but you know, when you go to Junon in the demo, for example, that is very, you know, God of War-ish in terms of it's quite wide linear, albeit I would say that it's a lot wider but less linear in some respects than God of War was, because there's, you know, Junon is one area and there's probably, I mean, I don't even know how many, but I've come across at least 5 areas as big as Junon, if not bigger.
Right.
Already, and I'm only 60% through the main story. And it's weird. It's a weird game because, like in these, it's hardly like, you know, it's not Elden Ring or Legend of Zelda or Tears of the Kingdom, that sort of stuff. It's not like an open world that has lots of surprises. In fact, like a lot of what you do in the open world is very, I would call, busy work. And if someone else other than Square Enix were making it, it probably wouldn't be that interesting, because it's a lot of, you know, tower unlocks and go and find these things and all that stuff. So it's really standard fare stuff, but there's something about the game that makes all of that really enjoyable. I think it's probably just the world that you're in is so much more visually interesting than a lot of worlds that you're in, where you have to, you know, if you're in a Far Cry or whatever, like it's, you know, they're kind of rote and a bit dull. But this one's just so fun to be in. It feels so alive, and because the combat's so good, and it's so deep, doing those activities, you know, when you've got to face enemies and such, just makes it much more enjoyable than it would be in another game. And there are side quests, and some of those are very good. But it's a really really interesting setup for an open world. There are things you can discover, but it's not really the aim of it. The aim is to, you know, just keep leveling up your party and going and completing activities and getting world data, and doing all these other things, and amongst then some, you know, incredible main story missions and quests, and just copious amounts of well directed and very pleasing cutscenes, and it's just terrific so far. It's just a really really good game.
Do you think?
It's no, go for it.
Sorry, Luke. Because you mentioned God of War.
Yeah,
Just when I played with the demos, it felt like you have locations that you can climb, and it seemed like
yeah,
with highlighted slightly yellow, the icons in terms of the items, the world items that you can collect, the sort of the reticule to identify items you can pick up were almost identical to the ones in God of War. And I thought,
yeah,
have they, as Square Enix here, taken the first party single player template here to some degree, incorporated it into Rebirth, which is not a bad thing, which I thought was a good
yeah,
thing. And then because you mentioned that you were trying to pinpoint in terms of why is it so interesting. Of course, visually, I think Square Enix, in terms of visual creativity, they're sort of second to none in many aspects. But do you think that the way that one of the things that could be that's pulling you in is the fact that, like as in God of War, you have Atreus and Mimir, having conversations with you about all sorts throughout your journey to make the game interesting? Because
yeah,
I mean, I played God of War, and I don't think I heard the same Mimir story twice in
yeah.
over 100 hours. So, is it the conversations as well with
Yeah.
your fellow companions, which I'm assuming you can switch in and out, that have
Yeah.
lots of sort of dialogue with Cloud, for example, that carries the exploration and your presence in the world through, and the time that you spend in it.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things this does really well is it makes you feel like you're in a traveling group and you're all in this together. And what I mean by that is, in some, like, I mean, go back to the original. When you're exploring the world, you're effectively just Cloud, right? And then your party busts out, and then you do combat, and then it goes back to Cloud. But in this, when you're in the open world, all your party are there with you. They're physically following you. When you get on a chocobo, they all get on another chocobo, right? There's a section where you get a truck, like a big ridiculous monster truck, effectively, and they all climb in to the monster truck. And they do. There is banter and conversations that happen in the open world and stuff. And yeah, there's from your party, you don't. I've not really heard any repetition of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very good at making you feel like there's you're in a group with lots of camaraderie and you're heading towards an objective, and you just feel
Feels very organic.
yeah, it feels very organic. It feels like you're part of a party, which is the whole point. So it's very good at doing that. And like I said, I think even though the activities are quite rote in a lot of respects, there's so many of them, and the combat's so good, and the world is so visually interesting. And obviously the music plays a big part as well, right? As a cohesive experience, even though you are doing quote unquote mundane activities, it doesn't feel like that. It feels much more enjoyable. Yeah, it's just very 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 well done. And it feels, I think the great thing about it is already it feels like this very epic journey, right? Because you've got so many regions, there's so much stuff that happens in them. And you're physically traveling across this expanse, that makes it feel very grand in terms of adventure, and I think that helps a lot as well. And also there's like 7,000 mini games in this game as well. That's something I've noticed, which was obviously in the original, but the fact that you've got you kind of come to these sections where they've designed like 4 or 5 mini games, and they're not amazing, like they're pretty good, but it's just the fact that they've put them in the game, and you can kind of it's a bit like a Yakuza game in that regard, but just way more of them everywhere.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Just very clever.
Yes.
I wanted to just ask you. You mentioned Integrate, which I actually thought they did a fantastic job with. I actually, in terms of the combat, I thought actually the combat for Yuffie was fantastic. I was so I thought it was better than the combat in the remake. But besides that, talking of mini games, I remember speaking with Removable and mentioning to him, look, I'm playing a mini game within Integrate. It's called Fort Condor, which I
Yeah.
completed. I couldn't stop playing it. So I guess I've got two questions for you. Does Fort Condor make a return? And the other game that is just the one thing that I take away from all the I know it's going to sound strange, all the trailers that I've seen from Final Fantasy was Queen's Blood. So I'd just like to sort of touch on those with you can spoil them if you want,
Yeah.
but just so I can get your sort of, and the piano game if you want to throw that in as well.
yeah, that's in there as well. Yeah, so Fort Condor comes back. I love Fort Condor. I thought it was great.
I loved it.
Yeah, really good. That's still in there. That ties into a couple of missions that you do in the open world as well, particularly the first section or the second section of the game. And Queen's Blood is an interesting one because people love it. I don't really like Queen's Blood very much, but the reason for that is because I don't really like card games, subject with like 2 exceptions in games, basically. So when I see, basically my general response when I see a card game in a video game is just like it's a mini game. Like I'm not really that interested in it. But I have played a few rounds, and it is a very good and well-designed card game. And I know a couple of people who have like put 10, 15 hours just into doing Queen's Blood in the game, just going around the world. There are people you can battle. You have to like get a certain
Probably
rank,
Scott.
and then probably. Well,
Looking how much
me and him
Balatro he plays,
well, me
probably
and him
Scott.
are aligned on Balatro.
Funny-
so
funny-
I absolutely love Balatro. But
Funny you should say that, Luke. It's been put in. What's that game? The indie did?
Oh, Pacific Drive, yeah.
It's
so
in the car now, in the
Yeah,
update,
it was in the thing.
apparently.
Yeah, or they put it in for the profile. Or
Well,
whatever,
there's
but
200 hours gone for Scott for that game.
Yeah, I mean, if that was actually in Pacific Drive and you could actually do that, I mean, I don't think you'd ever get out of the garage, would you? Really?
No.
You'd just be playing Balatro. But so I know people who have played a lot of Queen's Blood and love it, and it's very well designed. And I think if you're into, the Final Fantasy has a history of like really good card games in it, right? Like Triple Triad and all these sorts of ones. So I think if you were into those, then you'll be really into this one because by all accounts, it's probably the best one they've ever done. So
I'm not a big card game fan. It's just there was something about it, but I think you hit on it right at the beginning when you were describing the fact that look, it is Final Fantasy. There is nostalgia there. The world that you love from Final Fantasy VII, from the OG, it's all been rebuilt, with modern day technology, so you can witness it in all its glory, etc., etc., etc. Plus with all the music, plus the additional couple of hundred or whatever tracks that they've integrated to, as in either remade or to accompany the original OST. So I guess like when I saw the card game and it had all these sort of obviously if you know the game, you recognize all the cards in terms of enemies and monsters and characters and so on and so forth. So I'll if I do get it, I was going to give it a try. I just thought I'd ask you, and then obviously now you're going to tell us how unbelievably fantastic you are at the piano mini game.
Oh yeah, I'm brilliant. No, that's actually quite a tricky one. That it's quite difficult. Fun though, very fun. There's so many of those in the game. There are ones based on Chocobo racing that are like Mario Kart. Obviously not quite as good as Mario Kart, but they exist. There's there's a fighting mini game, like a weird Fort Condor inspired brawler at one point. So there are things that are put in there that are just they're just throwaway mini games, right? They're throwaway activities you can do in the world, and you may never engage with them at all. But for some people, you can really get into them and make a whole sort of sub game out of them and just go and enjoy them. The amount of effort that has been put into this and kind of the love that's been put into this is very impressive, and trying to make sure players always have something to do if they don't want to just follow the main story. So yeah, I mean, and I can see in the chat Daz loves it as well.
What mode are you playing it in?
I'm playing it, funnily enough, in the graphics mode, which is at 30 FPS, which I don't like doing. But the only weakness of the game really is that the performance mode is very solid, so it runs at a good 60. So there's no issue with that, except that the resolution is just really low in that mode. It's very it more so than other games that run low resolution. I'm not quite sure how they're doing it, because it's not that it's just a low resolution, but it almost looks blurry, like there's a layer of blur across the screen, almost Vaseline-esque, and it's not particularly appealing. Now, I must admit that some of this, I think, it depends on
Didn't they say
what
it's like
side.
a motion blur that's like it's almost like fixed on it? I remember hearing someone say.
It's not like that. It's more like, if you unfocus your eyes,
Mm,
it's like playing the game like that for me. That's what it feels like. It feels like it's not in focus. It's very bizarre. They have promised they're going to update it. They're working on a patch for it, so I hope it turns it around, because obviously the ideal way to play this game would be at 60. But
I
I
was going to
think,
say that was exactly one of my comments to Removable just before I was going to purchase it. After I played the demo, I said, I think I texted him and
yeah,
Stubbs that there's just something that's missing from how it looks in terms of the first game. Now that maybe you can answer this. I don't know, but because obviously it's a little bit like a Rocksteady. They're both companies of Justice League, the Suicide Squad, and this are both released on hybrid versions of Unreal Engine 4, right, or hybrid or
Yeah.
Unreal Engine 4 plus plus, for the next gen. So I'm just wondering whether, rather than call it the limitations, I'd like to be positive and say, do you think that they're maximizing what the output is in terms of what they're able to extract from Unreal Engine 4, or is it a case of, well, I mean, we all know, we've been on enough podcasts to know that the more time you give the studio, and Rui will tell you this from his experience of Oolong playing it a year later, that the more time you give the studios to optimize, there are ways to continue improve performance. It doesn't matter if it's 30, 40, 60, as long as the game's not crashing. I'm playing reasonably well. That's one of the reasons why I kind of hesitated as well.
Yeah, I think I mean, in terms of visuals, I think Daz said it's the best looking game he's ever played, and I wouldn't call it that, but I'd say it's an extremely good looking game most of the time, like 95% of the time. What they've what they're accomplishing in terms of particularly in the graphics mode, right, which is I think it's about probably 1440p. It looks like that. It's not native 4K obviously, but it looks quite sharp. What they're accomplishing in terms of the size of these environments and the level of geometry that's on screen at any one time, plus multiple high polygon characters, and then you get into a fight and you've got particle effects everywhere. You've got all sorts of stuff happening all the time. What they're doing in terms of that is super impressive. And then you look at the level, the rendering and cutscenes, etc. Again, that's a level even greater than what you get in gameplay, even though it's all real time.
Yeah,
so
I think like God of War, what I appreciated about the demo, and obviously in I can't remember the first game clearly enough, is the fact that the way God of War transitions between gameplay seamlessly into event sequences or cutscenes or whatever you want to call it, because obviously a single camera shot. This also pulls it off really, really nicely. Maybe not as crisp as God of War, but then again, God of War has a very bespoke engine, right? This is made on a versatile engine, which you have to curate or work with in terms of making it bespoke. But that can take a long time, right? We're working with Unreal, so I understand that. But what was it you were mentioned about the additional patch? Perhaps might be coming.
Yeah, so they've said that they recognise the criticism that people have had around the performance mode, so they're working on another patch for that mode, basically, to try and fix, I guess, some of the problems that people have.
Remove the Vaseline as you
Yeah,
suggest.
remove the Vaseline would be nice. I'll be interested to see what it looks like, because I don't know how much they're pushing the PS5, but it seems like a lot in terms of, Unreal Engine generally is quite heavy, and I guess Sony's first party can get very impressive results when they're using, in-house engines that have been designed specifically for the PlayStation 5. Unreal Engine's a bit of a different beast, so I imagine that's quite difficult to extract, maximum performance out of all the time. But hopefully, this new patch will fix it up. I don't think it has to be that much sharper. But what I was going to say as well is, I also think some people don't have as much of an issue. It depends on part of it depends actually on how big a screen you're playing it on, right? So like the performance mode on some, like a really smaller screen that's a lot denser in terms of pixels, will probably look okay. But once you start kind of ratcheting up how big your TV is, it really like exposes the blur of that. So I think that your mileage will vary on how much you notice it. But
So basically, you're trying to say is, unlike yourself, cut down from a 200-inch screen to say like
exactly.
a 22-inch.
Yeah, stop.
Yeah.
If you don't rent out the cinema,
Yeah.
then you could be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just hopefully they fix most of it with another patch.
One thing I was going to ask is, obviously, VJ and yourselves are clear Final Fantasy fans. How would you probably go about talking about this game for those who have never played a Final Fantasy,
It's a good
or
question.
have probably only played maybe one Final Fantasy in their entire gaming history? How would you kind of sell it? Is it something that you need to know the entire series to kind of to understand this? Is there like a prerequisite in terms of the lore, or is this something that actually could still be quite user friendly or beginner friendly, I would say, coming into this?
No, I mean, I think it's pretty beginner friendly, as well as far as JRPG goes, right? Sometimes they're not too beginner friendly, but I mean, the Final Fantasy games anyway are not connected, so they're all independent stories, right? Final Fantasy VIII it's not a sequel to Final Fantasy VII, so on and so forth. They just have recurring motifs in them, common to each game. Like crystals and summons and such. I mean, I think it depends on what the level of getting something out of this is, because on the one hand, you could go into the Final Fantasy VII Remake and play that with no knowledge of the series at all, and you don't need any knowledge, and you will have an amazing experience. And obviously the same for this, because this is a continuation of the story that started there. Or you can go into it having played the original Final Fantasy VII from your youth. Obviously you will know the beats of this story, and you might know a lot about the story, but then it isn't just a straight remake, right? They've twisted,
they've expanded upon areas and lore and aspects of it to
and
really
also
kind of
changed some of the narrative as well.
right.
not to a remarkable extent, but they've put things in here that are different from the original and that are meant to subvert expectations for people who have played original Final Fantasy VII. To get those players not just in a place where they're like, oh yeah, okay, so I go here and then this happens and then this happens. It's it's to try and mix it up for those players as well, so they have a fresh experience outside of obviously all the massive visual changes and combat and everything like that. It's I think if you've never played a Final Fantasy game before, or you've only played one, then it's a fantastic game to just play, because you need no knowledge at all. It's an independent, concise, well, not concise, it's long story. If you've played Final Fantasy VII original, then it's still great to play, perhaps even better, because you'll get the nostalgia kick from everything that you see now in 2024, plus all the story changes and the little twists, and seeing these characters actually come to life with proper dialogue and stuff. But so it just depends on what angle you're coming from. But I'd say for people who haven't played a Final Fantasy game, this is probably the one to play.
Oh, that's a good selling point. That is. I've always wondered about Final Fantasy games. I never really got into them, but oddly, I like Yakuza and Persona. But like you were saying that, you were saying like it's a long game, but are there any games that are Japanese that are short? Do we know of any?
Yeah, true. I don't know.
They're all real long games, aren't they? The
long,
Japanese devs.
It's classified as epics, aren't they? They provide epics.
Well, they provide value for money. I can tell you that they do, definitely. But yeah, it's a good view on Final Fantasy Rebirth. Daz is very keen on it, and he was saying it's best to play the OG Final Fantasy VII. That's his view.
It's interesting to see that he's on playing it on graphics mode as well. So,
yeah, it's just it's
he's obviously not a fan of the lead.
In terms of, I mean,
one thing. I want to get a few shout outs quickly in, if I can.
Yeah, go on.
Welcome to the Indie Gamer. Welcome to Fimber. Also, welcome to Ducky Love in chat. Also, welcome to Original Next Level Gaming Mike over on Rumble. Thanks for tuning in while you're making your dinner. And I think I shouted UK Daz out. And Scott. Scott is in chat saying, don't listen to Luke, he knows nothing about games.
You shut up and go back to Balatro, you. I'll join you as well.
Before we dive to the next topic, one thing I want to actually, speaking about the graphics and obviously the performance mode, has there any been, is something that maybe a VRR would help in terms, or is that kind of the way they've set it up? It really isn't going to give it any much more of a boost.
Yeah, no.
VRR has variable refresh rate.
Yeah, that wouldn't help because the issue is not frame rate. The frame rate's fine. Even in the performance mode, it's a very. I mean, I've not played loads of the performance mode for the aforementioned reasons, but from the bits that I've played, even in hectic combat, it's very solid. You know, it's pretty much locked 60. It probably does dip at points.
So is the graphics locked as well then? Because I know sometimes the graphics are.
It's locked at 30.
It is locked at 30. I know sometimes you can turn on like a VRR option and it will unlock it for the graphics mode if you wish it to be. And I just wondered that's the case here.
Yeah, sometimes you might have an unlocked frame rate in with your base as 30. I think Dragon's Dogma 2 is doing that on console, right? They
I think that's exactly where I was coming from. Yeah, because I think a few games are not as hard to push that now. It's like here's a graphics mode, but if you've got a variable refresh rate TV, which I know a lot more TVs are now doing, so monitors are kind of it's almost built in now, isn't it? Kind of monitors is like guaranteed now.
You get a lot of them now. As there's standard that have some VRR feature. Certainly, if you're buying any like LG OLED, it has VRR built in, for example. But yeah, on those sorts of games, VRR can make a big difference because it doesn't increase your frame rate, but the way that it works is by syncing the game's output frame rate to the refresh of your monitor. It means that you're less likely to notice big
drops or
dips, and you won't get screen tearing. It depends, however, on how the game's running in general, because if it's going out of the VRR window at times, then you'll still get those things. But in an ideal world, it would help. But for this, it just wouldn't help because the issue is not actually frame rate. It's just that the performance mode looks like someone's put some butter on your screen, basically. It's not great. They need to fix.
No, I thought this
that.
might beef up the actual graphics mode slightly if you wanted to maybe, I don't know, a
Yeah.
more closer 45 or something. But if that's not going to be the
That
case,
would be lovely. But I mean, in an ideal world, what they do is bring it to PC, so you didn't have to mess about with this stuff, and you just unlock it and off you go. But unfortunately,
on
they
PC, you
haven't,
wouldn't. You'd have so many options. You'd be like, oh, okay, here's which of the 400 options am I going to choose to try
Yeah.
and
Luke would be going up to like 300,
240
FPS.
frames per second, 3,000.
Yeah,
8K,
so that would be nice. But who knows? I may double dip on this when it comes
Never
to
say
PC.
no. You never know.
Are you double dipping on Ghost of Tsushima? Have you made your mind up?
I'm very tempted. I'm very, very tempted. Like I said to you, I've only double dipped on one PlayStation game, which is Uncharted 4. And actually, I ended up mostly just playing that on my Steam Deck.
Oh, okay.
But I'm quite tempted by this one, I must say, because it's an Nexus port as well, so it'll be a very good port. And I mean, they did the upgrade for PS5, which was actually very good because you got 60 FPS out of it and looked great. But the idea of being able to play it maybe at higher than 60, and then also high resolution, it's quite tempting. It's very tempting. So maybe we'll see.
It's hard. It's hard to imagine. I don't game on PC, but it's hard to imagine. I tell both of these guys, Removal and Stubz, that if they ever get their hands on a PS4 or a PS5, play Ghost of Tsushima, because even on the PS4, it was
great,
phenomenal looking and phenomenal playing games with a fantastic story and its open world.
I am surprised of Ghost of Tsushima when you clearly, and you've told me numerous times, you want a remaster of Bloodborne.
Everyone wants that, from what I understand.
Yeah, we need that.
Or the PC port would do.
I think the longer it goes on, I think the vote's going towards the remake. I'm not entirely sure, but
I think
you make do with the remaster. But yeah, the longer it carries on, it's like remaster, no remake, please.
The thing with that game especially is that I remember playing that when it came out on PlayStation 4. And I was really blown away. It's probably the only From game that I've ever looked at and gone, like, it's visually really good. Like, distinct from art style, right? Because all From games are phenomenal in terms of art style and direction. But that was the only game I remember playing where I was like, oh, visually, this is really good. And then as the years went on, you come back to it, you're like, oh, it's still visually very good. It still holds up quite well, but just the frame rate and the resolution just don't work anymore. Like, it's just too low now for the modern day. So the idea, even a simple PC port, being able to actually run that in like 4K at 60 would be mind blowing to see that go. But as you said, VJ, I think at this point we're getting into, maybe PS6 remake territory. Yeah. Which look, I'm all for that as well. Like, as long as we get Bloodborne like made for new hardware, then look at what they did with Demon Souls, right? Which it kind of is the Bloodborne of its day in terms of it looked fairly okay when it came out, but it ran not amazingly, and it was quite a low resolution on the PlayStation 3. And then obviously Blue Point ground up, it's still one of the best looking games of this generation.
Would you say, actually coming back to that, because obviously they made tweaks to that game, didn't they? Which some people were not happy about.
Demon Souls?
Yeah, didn't they made some tweaks to, I remember hearing that he's either...
One of the bosses?
Yeah, they were not happy about a certain. I'm sure there's there's always a controversy over it, on the internet. But this one was a bit more. There was the fans or the lore or something like that. They tweaked something which a few of them weren't quite happy with.
So the Demon Souls remake is extremely faithful to the original, as in it's running effectively on the same underlying engine as the first one. So all of the sort of combat, etc., is the same.
Not identical. Yeah.
The world is obviously complete visual remake built from the ground up. the world is very faithful. They didn't introduce any new areas or anything like that, or change the story at all. So the only controversies that came out of that were when they initially revealed one of the bosses called the Flame Lurker. The design was slightly different from the original. That the face looked a bit off. But then they went back and they changed it to make it more faithful, and then everybody was happy. So I think that might have been, that was the only controversy.
That's probably where I was remember it coming from. Yeah, because it was like,
because there was a bit of an outcry of like, oh, it doesn't look quite right, you know, because obviously because the generations are so large and difference, like, and the remake was so vast in terms of visuals, like naturally, what you have in your mind's eye compared to the original isn't. It's never going to be representative of what.
No, you're going to always someone's the creator's view versus your view it's always going to be slightly different, isn't it?
Yeah, it's interpretation of the original and how it looks, but yeah, they did fix that.
There's a Ghost of Tsushima fan in the Rumble chat saying he's platinum Ghost of Tsushima. Mike from NLG, he's saying, but yeah, it's a great person to have on for these topics with Luke. He's very knowledgeable, especially when you started about VR. I was like, I only just about know what it means, I think.
Well, in fairness, to be honest with you, for us mere console peasants,
I'm not a console peasant. I've got a PC. I've just not got the knowledge.
Well, yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying for us mere console peasants, to be honest with you, it's actually just. It's for me. Because I actually work on the PC 24/7 anyway, so that's how I kind of view it. And also, I shout out really to the Digital Foundry team because they kind of spoke about it more, and they are kind of informing the masses, if I may say so. And it helps in some cases. This information. It pushes to the console. It pushes it to the console gamers, which I think is a good idea anyway, because more PC options coming to console gamers is only going to be a better thing generally. You know, it's just going to be a better thing in that regard. So, yeah, for that, as I said, it's one of those things that if you're on PC and you work on PC, you kind of know about it. But for the people who aren't on PC. It's kind of been pretty faithfully discussed in terms of Digital Foundry, in terms of how they come across it and how they come back with when they go through these sort of discussions about the graphical fidelity and the frame rate. This is the thing that they sometimes bring up as a potential solution, not always a solution, but a potential solution in some cases, because they don't just sit there and go, "Oh, this is this, this is that." They do like to try and provide some sort of solutions to what they're talking about.
Yep.
Exactly.
Enough of that. You wanted to go to another topic, didn't you, Stubz? You keep nudging us.
Ducky Love in chat was asking when we were going to talk about No Rest for the Wicked, so I said after this topic. So because we didn't get to it last week because I had to cancel the show due to illness, and it's a shame we haven't got Masuka on this week because he was dying to talk about it, but we will get him back on when he's free because he always drops me a DM to let me know when he's off. He does. So, No Rest for the Wicked, made by Moon Studios. So very, very, very interesting. It's piqued VJ's interest a lot, and
has it piqued yours, Stubz?
Yes, and I'll be getting it in early access on Steam. But what do you think about this game, Luke? By Moon Studios. Obviously, we had Ori in the Blind Forest, and then Ori in the Will of the Wisps.
Yeah.
And now we've got this that's something completely left field from what they used to making. It's a different. As you say, a lot of people say wheelhouse. It's something different completely.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I'm very excited for it. They're a really, really good developer. They made 2 fantastic games in the 2 Ori games that were visually incredible, artistically incredible, music, narrative, like they're just making very good games. And I remember when I saw it was revealed at the Game Awards, and before the Moon Studios logo even came on, I literally said out loud, I think this is Moon's new game, because the art style, even though it's different from Ori, it's kind of
Similar.
an evolution of a it's like kind of like just a more twisted, darker fantasy version of what Ori was doing, and they've got a very distinct art style, the way they use colors and lighting, and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, so yeah, and the they'd said before it was announced that it was going to be an action RPG, which piqued my interest a lot, because big Diablo fan and of Exile and that sort of stuff, and it is an action RPG, but it's a bit different to those games, because it's more of a
Dark Souls.
Souls deliberate action. I mean, Souls is an ARPG in its nature, but I think when people say ARPG, they you instantly get the image of like a Diablo style game.
Yeah,
but this one's not like that. It kind of riffs on it a lot. And
it's almost like a amalgamation, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of an amalgamation of the two. It's much heavier, much more deliberate combat, like Dark Souls is. So it's you're not going to be facing mobs of enemies and just plowing through them. You might face a couple at a time or one big boss, and have to kind of tactically work your way through it and manage your stamina and that sort of stuff. So I'm really excited for that. I mean, I just visually again looks incredible. The art style looks incredible. I can't overstate how amazing the Ori games look on like an OLED display, because they use color in such a incredible way, and particularly they use contrast in such an incredible way. And to this day, I think probably Will of the Wisp still has like the best like HDR implementation of any game, apart from maybe one or two. So everything just pops out on screen, and I'm praying that you can play this on Steam Deck, like that it will be playable, because it will, like on a Steam Deck OLED screen, having this in handheld would probably ruin my life, I would imagine, actually. Because I'll be very interested in that. I don't know if it will, because it looks like it's probably not demanding as such, but maybe it might be a step too far for the Steam Deck. I'm not sure yet. But
you'll have to tweak the settings and the battery. Maybe you can do it if you got it plugged in. Maybe.
Yeah, if I've got it connected up to the wall.
Yeah, that was it. That 25 watt really going for it, as you.
BJ asked me a question that I couldn't really answer. I'm not even sure you could answer about this. The early access. He was asking me, so how long would it be in for? And I said, well, it could be months to years. It's a difficult one to answer. Really.
Yeah.
I doubt it will be years, but
no, I don't think so. But the well, not the issue, but the point of early access. Well, you just don't know how long it's going to be in there for. Like, I'm sure the developers have an idea of how long they want it to remain in there, and when they'll when they'll roll it out fully.
I'm trying to think of the
1.0, but
do you think there's potential? I know they haven't said it. Do you think there's potential for them to go for Xbox inside that early preview program? Do you think there's any potential? They've not mentioned it though, have they? So
maybe, I guess maybe. I don't know. I think they'll just try and. I think they want to look. I mean, if you look at any footage of the game, it's clearly in a very advanced state already. I don't know in terms of content how advanced it is, but in terms of gameplay,
I think the developer. I remember they were saying that, especially on the early access, because they didn't have PC. I don't have a PC, so I listened to it again, and they said, "Look, we're primarily putting it because this, according to Take-Two's AGM or shareholders meeting, the game was supposed to launch in the first quarter of this year. Obviously, it's slipping into next quarter. So the way that it came across is the fact that, look, we're putting it onto PC early access because we want you, the community, to help us to balance the game, and then and they didn't say, oh, then it will release or it will be available in easy access. Basically, and from that balancing program, it will follow on to console. Now, I'm assuming that's full release, because then why release it again on console to balance it yet again?
Yeah,
It's true. Yeah.
And
Well, it all depends if it's going to be what's the terminology? It's multi format. So if it's crossplay. So if it's crossplay, because it does state that this game is co-op. So there is the potential for, as you said, it being to be released on consoles, just for that crossplay sort of finalization and finesse. But I was trying to remind myself of probably one of the longest early accesses, and I'm sure I've got it in my head at least something. I think it was a AA game, and it was about a year. I'm sure it was about a year is the longest I've ever heard of. I don't think anything beyond that. Was the one? Is it happy? Was it was the one with the smiley face, the happy face thing?
Happy
is it-
Wars? No, sorry.
Um,
Played it years
it's,
ago.
it's
Oh, that was
it was the I've got the image of a copper with a happy face.
a cop of happy face.
British copper with his black hat, and it was like, oh god, that's frustrating me
The
now. I've got an image
PC,
of it.
Steam early access. Yeah.
No, I think I'm
Xbox
trying
too.
to remember. So this was Xbox as well. I think it was an early access on there, and it was I don't. It's something about the story or the premise was you're taking tablets to make you smile.
Oh, that's
What's
it called?
We Happy Few.
Yeah.
We Happy Few. Yes, wasn't that on for about a year as an early access? And I think it actually was on PC as well. Or am I being completely
I
misguided
don't
in
remember
my
it
head
ever
about
being
that?
in early access. I don't.
No, it was. Yeah,
Oh, it was,
I think
okay.
actually it was in early access for a lot longer than a year. If I remember.
Oh, was it a
rightly.
year?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was one of the longest ones I remember
Well,
before it kind of.
yeah, before it then released in 1.0. But I mean, Hades was nearly 2 years in early access.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. So
That's
you know,
interesting. Oh, okay.
and that turned out amazing, obviously, as everybody knows. But I remember picking up Hades when it came out early access. So yeah, that was 2 years to get to 1.0. So I mean, personally, I wouldn't expect this game to launch 1.0 this year. And I think you probably might get it like summer next year, something like that. It just depends. I mean, I know the first.
As you said, even with the cross-platforming, you're going to have that somewhere. That'll probably maybe say they do it like early. Say they do it like August.
Yeah,
that's what, another 3 or 4 months at least, maybe 5 months, 6 months, depending on So even if they do this early access for just crossplay, you could be at least another 6 months onto that. So as you said, I think you're right. It's going to probably be sometime maybe middle of next year.
Yeah, so probably something like that. Yeah, earliest. I mean, it's hard to know. I mean, some games enter early access and they're in there for 6 months. Others are a lot longer. I know, I can't remember the name of it. There's one game that's been in early access for literally about 7 years or something like that. But it's basically 1.0 at this point.
Isn't that Starfield? Not Starfield.
Starfield. Might as well be.
Yeah,
not Starfield. What's the one with
Joking people?
No.
Yes, yeah.
Well,
Star Citizen.
So I have Star Citizen actually. I bought Star Citizen. I go back to it from time to time, but that's not on early access. It's not on Steam. It's through the RSI launcher. So.
Oh right, okay.
But that's effective. I mean, that's effectively the longest, highest budget early access game there's ever been. So,
yeah, was it like 10 years?
Yeah, although the campaign's supposed to be launching this year, I think, or early
again.
next.
Didn't they have a campaign?
No, they've never. Well, they've never released a campaign. They have.
Oh, so a campaign. I'm thinking Kickstarter. In my head, I've heard Kickstarter. It's not campaign.
No,
sorry, campaign.
I mean, a single player campaign, which is called Squadron 42.
Okay.
So that's supposed to. They said that actually that's content complete now, so they're just polishing it. So that would be very interesting. I'm looking forward to playing that.
But in terms of Moon Studios, I mean, yes, you're right. From other studios, these titles could be, I think, as you said, 2 years. Moon Studios, though, their ethos is normally, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's like it'll come when it's come. Am I correct in that
Yeah.
kind of?
Yeah,
It's
they take
we're
so
not
long.
till it's
Yeah.
polished, till we're happy with it. You're not getting it.
Yeah.
So it's not as if it's it's not as if it's like one of those ones that's like, well, we'll just put it out. It's going to be, it's going to go through all the bases, all the tick boxes.
They're another studio that removed all that. Even with the first game, I think it was they mentioned that what was it, the Blind Forest? Even though
I've got the trailer on
Will of the
now.
Wisps, Will of the Wisps was fantastic. They're very similar to the other studios removal where they release a game and they continue to work on it and release patches and upgrades and improvements to their games. And looking at the game design for from what little we've seen, it really looks robust in terms of what they're presenting us. And I'm kind of like Luke when I saw the trailer. Well, there's only two games that I think we had a show like directly after. There's only two games from that show which I really liked the look of. One was obviously No Rest for the Wicked, because I'd only recently finished Ori and the Will of the Wisps and Divinity, and obviously the Divinity shares a very similar camera angle, right, in terms of gameplay. And Will of the Wisps, and the other one was Exodus, by the way, which we haven't heard much of since. But the other one was Will of the Wisps, and their art style is really, really obviously quite unique to them, because they seem to accent or apply this sort of ridge or edge lighting to all of the assets in the game to just give their game sort of an immeasurable radiance. And I can't remember what video I was watching regarding the early previews, and somebody mentioned Caravaggio or something, and some sort of artist from the 1500s. I think it was his name. I think his name was Michelangelo, but not to be confused with the Michelangelo, the one that painted the Sistine Chapel, because that's obviously Stubbs' uncle.
Or pizza.
Yeah. So, and he had, and I just kind of sent Stubbs a video because I found a video on the
Still
artist.
need to. Sorry about that. I still need to watch that. I haven't got.
I won't hold my breath.
I thought you were going to say I still need to go on.
But basically, the artist, because if you look at if you heard the creative director mentioned, look, him and his team, etc., they're from a background where they really appreciate, canvas art in museums and so on and so forth, and that's where they went and got the original inspiration in terms of like that painterly design, a bit like Okami, bringing painterly visuals to video games. And obviously Caravaggio, he used, I hope I've got this right because I don't want to upset anybody, but he was a master at using light and dark in contrast, as Luke mentioned, with one another extensively, and he was really liberal with it. Yeah, that also pretty much became his signature in terms of conveying, rim lighting and edge lighting and all that kind of stuff. I don't know what the exact terminology is, but I'm sure you kind of get what I'm talking about, and that's kind of become the signature of Moon Studio Games. So it really doesn't surprise me for Luke saying, as soon as I saw that art style, I kind of just took me straight across to thinking that this has got to be Moon's new game. But I'd only recently finished Will of the Wisps, which was a phenomenal game, and I learned a lot from playing it, because that game isn't easy either, is it, Luke?
No.
So they're not like a studio that makes easy games. They're very much like From Software. They have a very distinct art style. They have a very distinct, obviously, mature engine, because obviously they've been working on this game, or had ideas for it from like 10 years ago, right? They wanted to make this game. And it really reminded me of From Software to some degree, in terms of the style of games they make, the difficulty level, the art style that they use. And I really liked what I saw in No Rest for the Wicked, because one of the things that Ori and the Will of the Wisps does is that, and I think it does it slightly better than Hollow Knight. I hope Indy's not listening, because he'll probably beat me up. But how there's so many different environments, they all have their own personalities in terms of visual design, artistic resonance, and so on and so forth. But how they seamlessly are weaved or transition in between one another, right, to make the whole world sort of almost homogenistic in terms of your relationship, and in terms of how seamless and how the world's all collected together, how sort of fixed together for you to feel that you're completely and utterly immersed. And one thing I will say, if you want to know more about what No Rest for the Wicked is perhaps going to feature and look like, and how it's going to entertain you, and what to kind of expect, is obviously, play Elden Ring, play Divinity Original Sin, etc. Because I saw lots of contrasting elements in between the two. But it's just in terms of Will of the Wisps and Blind Forest will give you the idea of like how seamless and how effortless their gameplay components are. The way that they do their collectibles, their upgrades, their power-ups, and how they all tie into the story beats, or the overarching experience, and sort of underpinning the design elements. And these are the underpinning design elements, I was saying, in terms of how it all comes together. And there's very few games that do it. And I think Blind Forest was a good game, but I thought that, and you might disagree because you've obviously all got Xbox and Game Pass, that I thought Will of the Wisps just took a really good game, and the sequel was, for me, sort of sitting on a different level, right? Sitting on a different table almost, almost honed it into an nth degree, where it was ultimately a fantastic experience. As soon as I saw No Rest for the Wicked, and I saw the fact that it was from Moon Studio, I was quite surprised, Luke, to see, because I'd only finished Will of the Wisps. I thought, wait, what, another game from Moon Studios? And then I realised I'd only jumped onto Will of the Wisps about 25 years after it had been originally released. But yeah, I just felt like Bloodborne, Zelda, Divinity Original Sin, and I'm sure there's plenty of other games. As soon as I saw, and Divinity, obviously, which I've got 500 bloody hours into, and I still think about today. But yeah, so I think this is sleeper hit, if not killer hit, and hopefully, fingers crossed. And I'm probably not even erring on the side of caution, just on the siding on the air of hope, really, that it will be released sometime this year. Hopefully not next year, but
I think.
But I don't. I'm really not sure.
Do you think? Obviously, you two have both played the previous games. Do you think there'll be like an Ori pet in the new one?
Maybe something. Maybe you can buy the
Easter
plushes in the game and decorate your home in it, right? In what is it, Sacrament? Which I was telling Stubbs that if you add an O to it, it's Sacramento, which is like just a few hours drive south of me. So they've obviously been there, taken off the O, and called the main hub town in the game Sacrament, when it's actually named after Sacramento.
That's what I say. You never know what sort of things. As I said, obviously, clearly there's a developer here. They're well beloved. Their art styles and is well crafted. They know where they're going through. This is a new genre for them, but from what I've seen, from what I would say I would say demo or alpha that's been out, it has genuinely been well received across all boards, from those who play it and those who've streamed it already. If anything, I think a lot more people were left wanting more, and this kind of ties into the things that me and VJ have often discussed about, is a good alpha or a good demo. That's the key thing, because both of those things can
underpin your success.
Yeah, if you put it out a bad alpha or a bad demo, it can damage your brand. Put out a good one, and it can almost triple it. It's a kind of catch-22. Do you do it or do you don't? You kind of need some real talent there to put out a very good one, to kind of enthuse and enthrall the players who are who are desperate for it. And that's what I'm seeing across the board at the moment from people who haven't played it. They really want to play it, and those who have played this alpha, even more so, want to play it. So kudos to them on that. They clearly have managed to work their magic. And as you said, it's something I think that a lot of people will be on their list next year or whenever it releases, if it releases at all. I suppose the only thing I could think of is, could it be an announcement for the what's the big one? What's the big Xbox showcase and PlayStation showcases this year? My brain's going. Sorry.
PlayStation don't
Revenge.
always have a showcase, do they, Luke?
No, I think he's referring to the summer events.
Oh, the
right, where
June.
Yeah,
basically
summer event. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, the big.
not really E3, is it? But it's like
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was about to say
Yeah.
E3, but it's not E3, is it? It's what is it now? It's That's where my brain's going.
just digital showcases for the
Yeah.
summer, right?
It's
Basically,
yeah.
and
I wish I
basically
would just
they-
make it one name again. It'd be much easier.
I think
Yeah, no, basically they used to do that. Well, E3 was there basically, not for many reasons, but one of the key facets or key reasons why E3 was about is that basically because there's lots of other shows that go on that we don't hear about within the trade, but basically they would be where the key buyers for all the different formats and hardware and software buyers would go to these events, meet up with the publishers, and the publishers say, "Hey, look, this is what we're coming out in the next 9 months. Can you put them out for pre-order? And we want to get your, unit indications for how many units we're going to ship." But that was a time when, well, obviously, removable, when physical was 70 or 80%,
Physical was king.
20, and now it's the other way around, right? So,
yeah,
so yeah.
I think.
But yeah, summer is a good time. Was a good time to vet roughly what retailers were projecting, because obviously they were at the.
But is that something that potentially has an announcement, maybe, or something? Maybe
it's already announced for Xbox and PlayStation. So
this is a PlayStation trailer I'm playing.
Yeah.
No. I mean, instead of actually which platform it's coming to, more of a case of like release date or demo potential demo. Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
I don't think so. I think they'll, in terms of console stuff, they'll probably remain quiet until it's 1.0. I mean, look at like Baldur's Gate 3, right? That was in early access for 3 years, I want to say. And they pretty much just didn't say anything about the console versions until it was 1.0.
Luke, I was going to say, I don't know if you've obviously paid a lot of attention. I just want to ask you just one question. Actually, this is to all of you. I kind of got the sense that this game, when it comes, it's going to be a game that's going to have DLC, not as in, oh, here's an additional chapter for you to play, but a game that they'll continue to build out, a bit like No Man's Sky, over a number of years. I don't know why I got that indication.
Didn't the actual developers mention that, though? I think, was it in their showcase? They actually said that this is something they're going to continue to evolve and expand upon as years comes on.
Yeah,
I remember hearing that.
I think even if they haven't said that, I think that's the clear intention of this. I mean, it's an action RPG. I mean, it's like ripe for
it's ripe for it, yeah,
for a long time, and releasing new content for, and it's something new for Moon, obviously, because they've not done that before. But it's I think they want this to last for a good while after launch.
I think they've got a really good partner in. I think they've got a really good publishing partner, Luke, in terms of Private Division.
Yeah,
they did, because they did. I don't think they did the best job, but they did a really good job for Outer Worlds with Obsidian before they were picked up by Microsoft. But yeah, I think they were the good team over there.
Yeah, I think
to really get them out there and really make people sit up and pay attention, right? We're obviously parent company being Take-Two.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a good get for Private Division as well, because it could be a very successful game commercially. This, it may not sell like 15 million units,
well, let's say it's a better average, better odds, isn't it? With Moon Studios, it's not as if
it may not be a massive seller on day one, Luke, but it's got
it's got
do you know the term? Do you know the term evergreen seller?
Yeah.
It's kind of, it may be a fantastic game on day one because Power World and other games kind of come out of nowhere and do fantastic.
You just don't know these days. I think
this is really a red hot game for me.
Yeah, and I think focusing on the PC version first in terms of early access is very astute, because I think they will have probably seen
EMP abuse incoming.
Yeah. Wait for
also, it garners more favour, isn't it, to the PC community? Nothing personal. I think the PC community gets shafted quite a bit sometimes when it comes to console ports, and so this, at the very least, says, well, hang on, you are being thought about as equally as as the console audience. That
Yeah.
they're showcasing off. It's like, here, we are thinking about you. You're not just going to get a half-assed a console port. Not that it would anyway, but it's one of those things. It is literally showcasing it off to the PC players and saying, here you go. Here's what you're going to be potentially working with.
Yeah, I mean, I think as well, they'll have seen the success of Hades on the PC and how well that did going through early access, and also action RPGs generally. I mean, the home of those games is on PC, right? That's where this genre came from. And if you look at things like Path of Exile and even recently like The Last Epoch, which launched, I think that's early access as well. These are big successes on PC, really, really big. So there's a big clamor for that type of game on that platform. So it makes sense that that's where you'd, if you want to iterate on a version before you get to 1.0, but you're comfortable enough to release some of it at first, then it's no brainer to put it on Steam. And I mean, it's great as well for people who are buying it because in early access, because you get it discounted, right? You don't have to pay as much as it will be at 1.0, but you still get the full game when it launches. So, it's kind of a win-win. If they've made a good product and you pick it up, then you actually get a pretty significant discount on something that further down the line is this, astonishingly good game.
What was your thoughts on it, Removable?
I mean, I'm obviously as someone who works 24/7 on a PC but doesn't own a PC. I have been catching up with it through social media, so streaming, streamers in general, and the way I kind of, because I'm not playing it, I'm kind of living an experience through someone else. The way I kind of tally my whether or not I believe this is going to be a good game or whether something's going to be interesting to me. Obviously, it's like how it plays, how it is, but also the enthusiasm from the streamer themselves. And you can 9 times out of 10 know when someone's streaming it for the case of streaming it and someone who's streaming it because they're enjoying it. And from what I'm seeing is there is a general enthusiasm, general honest enthusiasm about the game. People are playing it because they generally want to play the game, and they're genuinely enthused. And I keep saying genuine, but they actually want to. They're enjoying it as they play it. They're looking at it and going, "Oh, what can we do this? Can we go around here? Can we go back upon itself?" It's showcasing itself off to be something that is something that I'd be least interested in picking up when it makes its way over to the console. I like the art style. I love. I like the dark, twisted aspects to it. Anyway, I kind of like the dark moodness and the contrast of light and dark. It's just something I really enjoyed. And there's the combat. Well, it's definitely up my street. Anyway, it's something that and for me, one of the things I instantly thought, and this is because it's just me and VJ generally try and play some games together, was like, it's co-op. Well, there you go. It's something perfect for me and VJ to go through.
I'm with you. To be honest with you, if I was a streamer or I had a PC, and believe me, I'm tempted with this game. You're privileged.
System seller.
This game. Well, my nephew's got like a super duper PC, and he plays all those games, all the games Luke's mentioned, and he's a non-stop PC gamer, and I might have to just beat him up so he's in hospital for a week while I play this game on easy access. I don't know. I'll have to do something drastic.
I really do hope they do crossplay. That's the only thing I would like to see, is that if I would like to see a crossplay, because if it is co-op, I would like to see a crossplay between PC and console, because this is a game that would perfectly suit that. It's not. You're not against each other. Well, actually, no. There is a PvP aspect to it, if I remember correctly. Didn't they say that there is a PvP actually in Sacrament?
Did they?
I think they mentioned something like that when they're talking about co-op.
End game, wasn't it? When they were talking about end game, they mentioned 3 or 4 features. Yeah.
I think they were looking at adding PvP in there, but it generally as co-op anyway. So as long as they've got a really good crossplay, that would be. I don't mind. I have no problem playing with PC players on a crossplay as long as it's no lag for either of us. I don't care.
Oh, that's fair enough. That is, there's benefits to it, obviously. It's like Luke. Luke's been playing HellDivers 2 with on the PC. I presume he's on PC.
PC.
Wait, you're telling me he's been making sure democracy is spread?
PC
Right.
and been playing with BMG on his PS5 while he's on the PC. How dare
Right.
he?
Was democracy spread well with BMG, or was
Oh,
he
there
a
was that
lot?
one
Or
clip.
was he an infiltrator, or what's it called?
was spread, but I was spreading it at a higher frame rate and a better
Yeah.
resolution. So
So he wasn't a bug sympathizer upon which you had to put out of his misery a few times.
no.
Oh, that's
I think
good to
we
know.
played quite nice together. Actually, I think it's just when the Jinner came into it that.
Oh,
chaos
have
ensued.
you not seen the Junior clip removable? If you haven't, I've got to send you it.
I
It is
think-
funny.
I don't know. You'll have to send it. Just in case. I think I remember seeing something which was making me giggle, and it's one of the things. It's generally
Very funny.
what's clicked me off of that is generally how the community seem to really. It's a game that, from what I can tell, and again, this is not always. It's a game that's generating positivity, and it's a game from what I'm hearing. I could be wrong. Luke, you'll be able to put me wrong. That it's actually people are wanting it to be put on Xbox for us to kind of join them in terms of
It makes sense.
as
Most-
spreading it. You don't get many games where it pushes beyond platforms and people are like, no, we need the other platform to be with us and enjoy this with us. We want you to come and enjoy this. And that does seem to have transcended it. It seems to have pushed positivity. And for that alone, it sounds like a brilliant game. And it looks fun. It looks fun as well, I must admit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a really. I mean, I'm not even a big multiplayer fan generally.
No.
I haven't been for a long time, but there are rare exceptions, and this is probably one of them.
This is one of them.
Yeah, so I've put nearly 30 hours into it
Wow.
on Steam.
Okay.
I'll easily play for probably 3-4 times as much as that because it's just really, really, really fun and really funny. It's the whole ethos around that game is just to have fun, and it's very satisfying. Like gameplay, like shooting in general, very satisfying. Looks visually fantastic. Runs exceptionally well, especially on PC.
You're actually on your rig.
Yeah, well, it's one of the rare games actually that, like, and I know this sounds silly, but even like my rig, like high end rigs, if you most games now you will struggle to run at native res, right? If you're running 4K,
Okay.
like usually you have to introduce some like DLSS or FSR, something to kind of
tweak it.
cheat your way to 4K. But on this, I can run this at max settings, at native resolution, native 4K. It never drops below like 85 frames a second. So, and it's like it's like not a visually unimpressive game. It's like a really good looking game as well. So, you could if they put DLSS in this, because none of that's in there at the moment, but if they put that in, I could easily get a locked 120 no problem on this. So. It's really rare that happens. It's not doing like ray tracing or anything like that, but even still, it's a very impressive game and it's super fun to play. And also they just keep they're already updating it. I mean, everybody's seen, or I think most people have seen that they've just introduced mechs into the game.
The sort of mechs. Yep.
And the community had to liberate a particular planet before they could release.
Am I correct in
mechs,
saying isn't there one guy who's the head D&D of this?
Yeah, they've got
just one guy who's just like, that's it. I'm now going. You now got to kill that planet. You now got to liberate that one. So I was like, oh, okay.
It's so clever because it's all transferred into the live game. So yeah, there is someone, or at least a very small group of people at Arrowhead that are looking at player behavior and kind of trying to externally modify that with stuff, right? So
Yep.
like what did they introduce the other day? They introduced like meteor showers. So you'll be on a planet and suddenly it'll just start showering meteors and you have to like take cover and stuff like that. And it's like really impressive, but also really deadly. And then obviously with the mechs, they were like, in the narrative of the game, we're building mechs, get ready. And then suddenly the planet that's building the mechs is under attack. So you've got to go and liberate the planet, and then the mechs are available. They've introduced like tornadoes into the game. Sometimes they'll just introduce, what's the one the other day? Oh yeah, sometimes now planets, this is a new one where they've introduced random earthquakes on certain planets. So you'll be thrown off.
Superb.
And like it's just stuff like that. And they also introduce stuff that helps players as well. It's not just like we're trying, trying to battle against you, but they look at kind of player behavior and modify it. And I think that's what's so fun about it. It keeps it very fresh, even if you've played it a lot. You're like, oh, there's
always something to kind of tweak. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Do you think this is something that will make its way eventually to the other platforms? Do you think this is just going to be?
You don't think the new CEO is going to do it because he seems very open? Live service, I would have thought he may do it.
Oh, yeah, I can't. No, I can't see it.
Just this one.
Yeah, just this one game.
Just this one.
It would I've got no issue if they did. Like, I think that'd be great for the game. But I don't. I think they're looking at this and going, well, this is already a monster success. This is
when they're struggling with servers and that already. So like another, was it 300,000?
Yeah. So like it's
Good point.
Completely exceeded expectations, like 4 or 5-fold. This game, it's absolutely blown up. It's still the #1 seller on Steam. Weeks later, the peak highs are still in the 400,000 mark, which is rare. You've seen like an inverse. Like an inverse growth decay, effectively, as oxymoronical as that is with this game in terms of sales, where it's actually performing either better week on week, or it's only slightly declining when usually you get massive drop offs. So,
well, I think that's through word of mouth, isn't it? Word of mouth is really helping. Because to be honest with you, the trailers, I don't remember hearing much about the trailers. I do remember seeing the average player posting silly, funny clips.
Well, BMG kept telling me before this game comes out, this game's going to be amazing. I didn't think it would blow up and be this big.
No, yeah,
well, no one does, do they?
Yeah, well, me and BMG both played the original all those years ago, right?
Okay.
Which was, the same core concept, but it was an isometric game. Like it was nowhere near the budget of this. And we both loved it. And I remember speaking to people, one in particular, who he was like, oh, it looks really good, this, but I don't, HellDivers 2, but I didn't play the original. I don't really know. And I'm like I guarantee this will be a fun game. I didn't think it would blow up to this extent at all. And I was actually quite worried about it because I was kind of like, there wasn't that much buzz around it, apart from the kind of small circle of people that were really
advertising on
PR-wise, it didn't seem to be much at all, was there?
No, I mean, well, to be fair to Sony, they did push it at every single state of play that they had, or most of them, and every showcase. Like, they were showing it, but it wasn't translating into like, the like YouTube trailer views or something like that. Some kind of measurable statistic to show, oh, this is really, this is like people are really tuned into this game. So, nobody was expecting it to do this, but then, it just, all it took actually was a couple of streamers to get it going, and then from there it's just snowballed into what it is now, and it's just a fantastic success. And it will be, like, it's got really good legs so far. I mean, longer term, 10 months, 12 months, 2 years down the line, I don't know, but if they continue to roll out content like they're doing, which is very fast, they've already got the next battle pass coming up in a couple of days with new weapons and armors and stuff.
I mean, that's hard to do, to be honest. You think about that, that is not an easy task to keep in, week out, something slightly fresh. I think the closest I remember something as well scripted and tight like that was probably the Mass Effect multiplayer, where week in, week out, there was something that was always slightly different, something tweaked, something like that, some benefit or some skin, or in some cases you was trying to get.
I will say one comparison. You lot ain't going to like it, though. But the game that is the most fastest at updating the game, bringing fresh modes, etc., is Fortnite. It's the fastest. But that's a free-to-play game. That is the fastest at doing it.
Yeah, but to be honest, they also kind of it's like effectively a lot of reskins, isn't it?
I don't know about that. Well, obviously, yes, but they've got this new Lego mode. It's like Minecraft, but Lego. It's pretty cool. Been playing it.
Yeah, but I mean, generally between that, it's like, here's a new skin of this, here's a new skin of that, here's a new skin. I think the skins pad out before the big optimal tweaks or big optimal options, isn't it? Which, you know, and don't be fair to them.
My son's got Eminem currently on his character. Eminem's available at the minute for the price of 12 quid or something.
But yeah, it's been a bit.
So I was just going to say, it goes back to what Removable said earlier on about watching a couple of streamers playing, you know, the early demo of No Rest for the Wicked, and gleaning from that. If you can glean from that the fact that they are thoroughly enjoying it and they're not just paid.
You can tell if someone's faking enjoying it or actually enjoying it.
Someone is generally.
But didn't you find, VJ? Sorry, you told me that some of these streamers, when they described the game, they wasn't quite sure what they were describing. You said a couple of
No Rest for the Wicked. Yeah, that was for no. I mean, I don't know about this game because I haven't watched streamers for this game. But when I saw some people, some IGN, some.
Hang on, what's going on there?
We lost him.
Hang on, wait a minute. Might be Discord playing up. Who else can we hear? Is Luke there still?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's VJ.
Hang on a minute. Is he there?
This is connection at his end that's kind of slightly gone wrong. He's in California, so.
Hello?
Sorry, yeah, I got my internet. My internet went there. No, I don't know where I got cut off, but genuinely, when I saw some of the previewers, and not the streamers, the people demo, but trying to talk about No Rest for the Wicked, I was really surprised at the shoddiness of and because normally when when a game goes normally as a preview or a media outlet, you're given a sheet, right, with all the information about the game.
Press pack.
Yes, something along those lines, and it just felt like that some of these people had just got out of bed and said, "Oh yeah, there's a game showing today, and it looks good." And people are like,
"Oh my god,
good."
Oh, I didn't see that once.
If I was still working, well, not still working at if I was covering a PR media department, I'd be on top of them and saying to them.
I'll be truly honest. I think that in that regard, they should have picked smaller people. I mean, on the size of people that will. Well, on the size of like indie gamer, and then like removable people that will.
Sanity.
And there's loads of but there is loads of other ones that really will understand what they're doing.
I will say
they would have
there is a push for that.
They're looking for numbers, aren't they? They're looking for push numbers, aren't they? They are.
Not always. No, I will say. Well, it depends on the publisher and it depends on the developer. I will say that what I'm seeing more recently is that I would say that a lot more publishers have cottoned on to that very fact. Where yes, you'll get one big streamer, he'll play it and never touch it again, and that'll get 160 or 300,000 views. But that doesn't always translate into sales.
Oh, no.
Whereas the more medium and smaller based people will speak about it, they'll talk about it, won't get nowhere near as many views, but that does translate well into good sales because they have a curated audience. And so the audiences are a much more, what I would say, they're much more trusting. They know the person they've been, that small person, they know because they've been following that person for years or something like that. They know if he says, "Oh, it's a good game," it's generally going to probably end up being a good game, isn't it, sort of thing?
Yeah.
And I am seeing at least a lot more from some studios they're actively looking for smaller people to work with, and it is becoming a more refreshing. It's to me, it's becoming more personal, which is what I'm seeing now. With the big streamers, you don't feel like it's personal. With the smaller streamers, it's becoming they want the more personal interactions. They want the more personal opinions. They want that, because they've realized word of mouth, a bit like HellDivers, that spreads faster. And I think in some cases with the big streamers, people are a little bit tired of them, maybe, potentially. They're like,
Removal. I just wanted to interject with a question for Luke here because he's someone that I think. And forgive me if I've got this wrong, Luke. I think you often listen to a channel called Skill Up, and he's got quite a huge audience. Do you feel that when he previews games or gives news updates about the weekly gaming news or reviews, do you find that given the size that he is, that he's still as invested and giving a considered opinion, say someone like Indy or Removable would give? Can you still take his word on his sort of how kind of insight into upcoming games and so on and so forth?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think he's probably the best reviewer.
Skill Up
on
is very
YouTube.
good. Yeah.
I think he's excellent. He's very consistent with his views, which is nice. And if you watch any, I mean, just go and watch any of his reviews. They're at least 30-40 minutes in depth.
I only liked his channel because he was once, or he still is, perhaps blacklisted by EA, and that sold me.
He's also. I
remember that. Yes, because he's
I personally love him because he thinks he thinks Outer Wilds is one of the greatest games of all time, which I'm.
Oh, that's it. That's sold it. Yeah.
So,
No, but
where's the Hollywood tagline? Oh, you had me at Outer Wilds.
That's right.
In fairness to Skill Up, he's been one of those people that hasn't changed as he's got more followers, more viewers. As Lucas said, he's been consistent. He stays consistent in terms of his ethos. I think that's the best way of saying it. His ethos of how he says. If he thinks something is absolute, he will say it. Now, he even points out, it's like, my opinion is just my opinion, where other people may say this is really good. Here's my opinion. You're here for my opinion in that regards, and he does confirm those things. And you do generally feel that it's coming from a place of, as I said, honesty, than just say someone who's been paid or prompted to write good things about a particular game or something like that. He does. He seems just, I suppose you just classify an average dude who's just given his opinion on the internet, and that that hasn't changed from his from when he was 10,000 subs to what he is now. I don't know, 500,000.
I think like you, Removal. I think Removal. He reminds me of you, or you remind me of him in the terms that look, you've like I was saying, no rest for the wicked. It was the fact that these people hadn't done their homework. It looked like they just rolled out of bed, and the comments that they were making on the game was like, "What are you talking about?" And it was like, at least you've taken, no matter how big he is, he's taken the time, he's done the research, he's invested the time into actually looking into it, spent time on it, and then conveying a reasonable, whether you agree or not, and that's irrelevant, right? But if he's giving you a considered opinion or a genuine opinion, someone who's actually, like you said, done the research and spent and invested themselves into affording you, the listener, something that giving you something of value, then I'd suggest that they are few and far between.
Yeah, also highlights indies a lot, so kudos to that, because he could just focus on AAA if he wanted to, but he doesn't. He pushes a lot of indie content.
To be honest, I think he generally pushes what he feels like is good. And then there's like some things that just kind of hit his desk at the same time, and he just kind of covers them.
I think he pushes what he's interested in, and he's interested.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
games,
Yeah.
So
I think that there is good, because when you turn from a YouTuber that's making what's it called, basically for no money, basically, and when it becomes your entire career, a lot of YouTube channels change for what they think people want to watch, etc. And they don't necessarily. They will change the games they play. They'll go for games that they think will hit the highest numbers. But in reality, Skillup is actually proving that by showing your passion, sticking by basically the way he started, by the sounds of it, people love that. It's what they came to the channel for in the first place. You don't need to change because people already like you. Would that be fair? Or
Yeah, no, I think it is, and as
because it can change people, money can, and subs, etc.
Yeah. I mean, he's got nearly 1 million, very close to 1 million subs actually.
I'd class him as a big time. I would.
Yeah, and Indy said he covers a nice amount and he gets big views. I think he did a Pacific Drive review a few weeks ago that's got like 500,000 views. That's like
really good.
That's an enormous amount for a an indie game. So he pushes that content because he really enjoys it. He did a Steam Next Fest video when that was going on as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
I'll try to check him out more. I do. It's been a while.
Yeah, he's great. He's great.
It'd be really interesting. Really interesting to see. He's obviously built that up over a long period of time, but the actual impact that he has in terms of conversion from loyal followers to taking certain games and converting them into genuine sales and really a meaningful revenue for these developers.
Yeah.
I think that's the key, isn't it? This is why it's how he translates what he says, as you said, to sales of games, and because he has built up an audience that just sees him and his opinions rather than just saying a person that will, as you said, parrot a particular developer's requirements or parrot a particular PR's requirements, it would probably translate into more. That's not to say that a lot of big places don't do that, but it's I would say skill up's the rarity, not the norm. And Luke, what would you say? Would you kind of agree with that in terms of the bigger ones? It's more.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. I mean, I don't like of the big gaming YouTubers and stuff. I don't think there's a lot that are doing what he does, or particularly in the indie space that can have the impact that he does. I mean, he has curated lists on Steam, for example, that people can sign up to and see games that he recommends from Steam.
Really?
Most of them are indie games. And he does even stuff like he does a weekly news show called This Week in Gaming, and at the end of it he always does a segment called Put This on Your Radar, and it's some, it's usually some indie game that he's highlighting that he's come across and thinks looks awesome, and I know I've found lots of games from that alone that I haven't known about. So he's I mean everything that he does I think is very good, and I don't always agree with him, like in terms of if he reviews a particular game and stuff, but that's fine because I can appreciate the effort that he goes to on his reviews and the rationale for why he doesn't particularly like something.
As I said, he will tell you it's his opinion on the game, and it's not necessarily. It's not his opinion isn't always going to translate to your opinion on the game, isn't it? We both like very different things. So, but at least, as you said, that it'll be coming from a place of honesty rather than more of a PR spin.
Yeah, and I mean, no, go on, Vijay.
No, I was just going to say, I hope I've got this right, but it might be just even people listening. Is he from New Zealand, or is he from Adelaide, like in the same neck of the woods as Team Cherry? Or
no, he's from Australia.
He is from Australia.
Yeah, because that's another thing, isn't it? He does focus how extortionate pricing is over there.
Yeah, it is extortionate over there.
That's another thing he does highlight.
The Australian dollar is worth far less than the pound and the American dollar. As well.
Yeah, but there is a much more, even with that sort of difference.
There is a quite a, yeah, he's right, Mr. Stubz, because when
I'll have to work it out what the games are then.
It's not about the.
Oh no, they're like $100.
Yeah,
what's
the price
pounds though?
No,
100 Australian dollars is like 50 quid here.
No, but that's not the way to look at it. You see, you're looking at the wrong way. It could be 30 quid there for a game, but if you look at their economy and what people are paid in relation to that, games, it's like in India you can get Game Pass Ultimate for 6 quid. Right?
Oh,
So
I see what you mean.
so
Okay, fair enough.
so
But you
in
probably
terms
only make it about 50p, or even less.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, I get it,
But
Peter.
so in
Cheers.
terms, but the games are expensive there. That I mean, they're not 10 quid, but they are equivalent. But the markup there, the import tax,
It's huge. It's huge.
is quite
Yeah.
big. So they did try to set up factories over there where they could manufacture, but obviously with the upturn in digital sales, it's no longer required. But I think the tax system, the VAT system, I can't remember exactly. But markup.
It all screws them over. Yeah, generally, if from what I'm gauging, it's.
Income is the big thing there. Yeah.
I think he did work it out once between British pounds and stuff like that, and he kind of. I think it's one of his videos. He did mention it, and I just couldn't believe it. It kind of worked out like, I don't know, a 40-50 pound game here was something like 120 quid out there.
Oh no, well that's a load of crap. Oh, you're joking.
Once you
That's
kind of
stupid.
worked through all the
that's
taxes,
ridiculous.
all the stuff like that, and it was like, Jesus Christ! Again, I think that's right. I'm not 100% sure. I could, but it was extortionately priced.
I don't know what
it does matter.
the price exactly, but what I would say, it's fair to say that they get a little bit more of a raw deal than perhaps we do. Like they say in life, there's always someone worse off than you, and it's definitely Australians.
Goodness,
and maybe myself and Removable, who can't play HellDivers because we don't have decent PC. I've got a PS5 that I shouldn't really complain.
I probably could play HellDivers, but not on the settings Luke's on.
The only thing I would say on HellDivers is that how often on this show, and we've been saying it for a long time, it doesn't matter who's the next big studio, it doesn't matter who goes out and buys a multi-billion-dollar game, you just never know where the next big hit's going to come from what corner of the world.
No, exactly.
Is Power World still booming? Is the hype still going for Power World at the minute, or is it tailed off?
I think it's still selling pretty well. I know that its concurrent player counts have gone way down. But that's somewhat to be expected because I don't think that game had a lot of content anyway.
Well, they weren't expecting it to kind of do so well, was it? It was like one of those like, oh my god, it's done really well. We haven't got any more content.
Yeah.
Whoops.
So obviously it had those massive concurrent player count peaks.
Exactly.
Biggest in Steam history. Sold a lot of copies. So it's obviously it's not on that level in terms of.
I think they are trying to push through content, but again, I think the dev said they were like, don't expect it quickly because we want to do it correctly, and B, we wasn't expecting it.
There's only so much capacity or pipe that you can put through a pipeline. You can't suddenly expand the pipeline for bigger sausages.
Not if you haven't set it up from the beginning. No.
That's something that actually Arrowhead talked about pre-launch, that they've already got a pretty extensive pipeline of stuff that they're ready to roll out.
That's
so
good
they that's why they're able to deliver this stuff so quickly, because it's been ready to go for quite some time. Stuff like the mechs and all the environmental changes, new battle pass.
Yeah, you wouldn't get that if you've literally just if you think like it's we just made this game and all of a sudden it's like, because it came out, HellDivers came out 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, 3 weeks ago-ish.
3 weeks ago, and I've already got in something like mechs in 3 weeks. That's almost like a 6 month.
Yeah, that's not an easy.
Jesus. So as you rightly said, they've had this all set up in the work. So they've worked out a program and what's going to be dropping, throughout the next 6 or 7 months. I suspect even from listening to HellDivers, though, they weren't expecting this much of an interest.
No, they weren't.
And I think they are slightly panicking that maybe that program is going to be a little short.
I think there's a lot of disconnect with some of the fans that are not very clued up, because although, yes, it is published by PlayStation, it's not actually the PlayStation studio. It hasn't got infrastructure. So they're trying their best to get the capacity up. But it's not like they've got billions of pounds. Just like, here you go. It's not that simple, is it?
But this is the thing. This was the thing with the servers.
It's just going to take time. It is. But I
Didn't
love
they
the way
say
the
it's
CEO goes on Twitter, and if anyone's talking like misinformation, he goes on and corrects them. I didn't know about this. I didn't know we were going multi-platforms. Someone said something that was false. That was it.
Yeah, I think
PlayStation had bought them.
Yeah.
And he said, it's news to me, and I'm the CEO.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
No,
Idiots.
he's a good guy. I mean, he
Yeah, it
told
seems
people to hold off buying it.
He
when
He
the
told
servers
Sentinel. It was Sentinel.
problems. Yeah, that was it.
But
Yeah,
no
that's
one,
right.
but none of the media outlets actually said it. You know, Norman did they credit somebody, but none of them mentioned him. It was his 5 minutes of fame. It was.
But
I just had a question for Luke, if that was all right.
Yeah.
This actually might be well, it is relevant to removable sanity, because he's reviewed a game recently for the publisher. But we don't get many PlayStation guests on here. If we do have a PlayStation guest on here, they normally rant and rave about how much they dislike the PC Master Race. But that aside, what are your thoughts on, just initial thoughts on Rise of the Ronin?
I think this looks really good. Actually, I'm a big Team Ninja fan generally, so yeah, I think it looks really good. It's funny you mentioned that, because I think as we've been talking, a bunch of previews have dropped from people who have played it, and I think actually skimming them very quickly, the general sentiment is really positive, which is very encouraging. You know, that it seems to be, at least in the preview period, being received well. Obviously, it's not long until it releases. But yeah, I think there was like, I've been like following it, you know, since it was announced, and it always makes me laugh that I think the main criticism of it has been the visuals, right? That it doesn't look like even as good as, say, Ghost of Tsushima, you know, which is obviously an older game. But I think if you're in the year 2024 and you're still expecting Team Ninja to focus on visuals as if they're still making like Ninja Gaiden, then you've not been paying attention to their output. Because gameplay is absolutely king for them these days. Like, it's all about how the game plays and how the game feels, and in particular because they target 60 FPS. And I actually don't think it's that bad a looking game. I think it looks nice enough. Obviously, it's not like groundbreaking.
It will always look better on your TV than any YouTube video you watch.
Yeah, it'll look much better when you have it in person. But no, I'm really looking forward to it. I think, you know, having I think there are a couple, like, the only questions for me, and part of this was being actually answered by some of the previews, was Team Ninja have never had great stories, right? They never had great narratives in their game. It seems like from the previews, people are saying this one's quite compelling, so that's a real plus. If that's the case, that's a real big boon, because if they can get a good narrative combined with their, you know, really fast paced, you know, Wolong Neo style gameplay in an open world, that could be a massive winner in terms of actually being a great game.
You know, just what you mentioned there, I don't know if you're a fan of Jet Li, but he made a series of films called Once Upon a Time in China. There's like 4 or 5 films of Once Upon a Time when the British and the American regimes were occupying China during the 18th century or something. And when I first saw Ronin, and you know, you see all the Western characters, etc., and the muskets and you know, the all sort of ornate weaponry and stuff, it really reminded me of those movies and the storylines in those movies, which are not fantastic, but they were quite compelling, even though they're not you know, fantastically written. But obviously their main focus was on the combat, you know, with Jet Li flying around the screen and whatnot. But and you know, I won't comment on the frame rate, but that's what really pulled me in. And then playing through Wulong from start to finish, right? Removable.
We did,
we never really focused on the visuals, but I have to say the combat was fantastic. And once you got used to it, and the visual effects in the game were quite
I think the thing that I kind of, well, I think you had a little bit of struggle with, I had a little bit of struggle with this, obviously, it was the combat to begin with. It was the very strong difficulty at the beginning. But as you said, the game's there to teach you how to play it, and once you click with it, it then evolves into a much more smoother experience. And it does seem that I never actually played Neo. I definitely would love to play Neo. To be honest with you, now playing Wulong, it definitely seems to be one of those games that it doesn't hold your hand. And I suspect Ronin's going to be very similar. It's going to be one of these games that's like, here's how you do this: perfect, play, and repeat, and patience. You know, you got to have patience with it. And as you make your way through it, you're going to get better. You're going to evolve. And as you said, it's more of a gameplay thing. It's one of the things that I noticed, and actually I was saying to VJ throughout our playthrough of the complete edition, was like, they've changed a hell of a lot here, haven't they? And because we hadn't played it since it actually came out on Game Pass, and we both were like, they've drastically changed some of the visuals in this. And as you already said, they seem to have focused on the gameplay. Then obviously when it came to the complete edition, that's when they decided to kind of tweak the visuals. I'm not joking. Isn't it, VJ? We did kind of, it was like,
Yeah,
there was
there's lots
visual
of
tweaks, wasn't there?
visual flourishes, and also what you'll find, Luke, is that throughout the environment they've littered it with flags. And what was that? When we were going up those pathways, there was ornaments on the left and right as well.
There
weren't
was
there?
dead
Little statues and stuff.
bodies. There was different trees. The foliage was increased. The atmosphere was tweaked. The fog, the lighting had been tweaked and modified, and it was just it. I think I said I don't remember some of the things that is like we got to the point where we got to this levels where we obviously replayed grinding these levels out probably 6-7 months ago, so we knew them pretty well, and even we were looking at it as like, this looks different. This looks drastically different to what we've played before. And so that's where I think if this is the case again, I think, as you rightly said, it's one of those. I'm kind of hesitant now because it's like, if you said the Rise of Ronin, it's almost like, do you kind of as you would, VJ, would you hold off playing this now, knowing that maybe the collector's edition would actually drag,
I don't know.
and really put in so much more than what it was?
It's difficult because there's so many games coming out at the moment, and there's games from last year I was going to buy. I didn't buy, like Octopath Traveler, so I guess I'll wait for the reviews. And I was hoping that they send it to you to review. But one thing that's got me peaked is that Jim, and I can't talk to from Neo, but one of the features that they've adopted from Wulong Removable is the fact that, obviously you come across various characters within the game that you can build bonds with, and then take them along on certain missions or any mission, and they've all got various skills and attributes. You can do the same in Ronin, according to the PlayStation blog, which I think was a really nice feature that they adopted. But it's just that if you've played Ghost of Tsushima and you like the Japanese culture, you like the Asian culture, and you like sort of historically look back in terms of the British and the Americans occupying Japan and even China at the time, and if you like, Koreans obviously have these TV shows which are based in historical TV shows, which are incredibly popular all over the world. If you like that, then I think that, from what Luke's saying, and if the game comes out and reviews well, and because it's not all about graphics, is it? I think performance is important. I think gameplay is really important. I think soundtrack's fundamentally important. I think progression, gameplay design, all of those components have to come together in harmony to make a good video game. Then I think it could make for one very compelling purchase.
Yeah, and I mean,
but wait for skill up.
Wait for,
sorry, I had to get that in there.
Wait for him to tell you what it's like. But I mean, look, I think it's a really interesting time period as well that the game is setting. I don't think it's going for ultimate historical accuracy, much in the same way Ghost of Tsushima didn't, but it's trying to be mostly faithful to certain things. This one set in the Edo period or really toward the end of that, under the shogunate. So that will be really interesting. I don't think any game has ever explored that period. So that will be interesting. And if they get the story hook right, then it could be very good. I mean, I don't really have too many concerns in terms of moment-to-moment combat because I think it'll be excellent.
Yeah.
But let's see how it does. The open world and how interesting it is.
I
and all
think
that
the
stuff,
stories
but
have been probably one of the weaker sort of
Yeah,
situations.
the stories aren't amazing, but this one looks like it has a bit more potential story-wise.
Do you think then, because obviously what's coming out recently, as you mentioned, the Shogun is actually there is a series out called
Shogun.
exactly.
Shogun.
So it's clear that this is a time period that a lot more people are interested in. Does that tie in well, do you think?
Well, it's certainly
this
launching
game?
at a good time, I guess. I don't think they meant it to coincide with a very popular show about the shogunate, but which I still need to watch. But
It's getting very good reviews. I don't think I've
It
seen
is.
anyone actually say anything
Yes.
bad about it.
Yeah.
I think
I've got a long plane journey coming up, and that's number one.
you're going
on
to
the
power
list,
right through the hell of
I will
it.
be powering through it. But yeah, look, it's good timing for it, and also, I mean, Ghost of Tsushima has shown that there's a real hunger for this, that period to be explored in games. Obviously, next Assassin's Creed is doing it as well, which will only increase the desire to see it. So yeah, I think it's launching at the right time to some extent, but it's also launching at a quite awkward time because it launches the same day as Dragon's Dogma 2, which is not like, I don't think they're in direct competition, but it's just a time and money thing for people, isn't it?
Well, as you said, you've got like what, a 60-hour game versus potentially another
60-hour game. Yeah, like two massive games based on exploration, and big open worlds. But I think the one advantage I guess Rise has is that it's multiplayer. So you'll be able to. I think it's up to 4 people actually. Oddly enough, so
Wulong was 3. So yeah, if it's 4, that would work rather well.
Which one's multiplayer?
Rise of the Ronin.
Oh, I didn't know that it was multiplayer.
Yeah,
there you go.
It's free. It's free. It's like Wulong. It's free.
Oh, it is one. Yeah.
Yeah. So
which actually I've always considered a bit weird. It's like, why would you have 3? But then I think even with 3, I can't be 100% sure. I'm trying to remind myself now. Can you actually add in an NPC to make a 4th player? I'm not 100% sure. Do you remember when we was trying to do that looping boss? We did bring in a 4th one, didn't we? And it was an NPC. So we had 3 people and an NPC. So I think maybe that's what it is. They give you up to 3 players, and they allow you 1 NPC player, which I think the NPC player provides you with some. The NPCs normally provide you, as you said, with stats and buffs. So maybe that's what they're thinking of doing for this one.
There we go. I found the video, Rise of the Ronin. I didn't realise I had it.
Hooray.
There we go.
It does look good. I'm not going to say it does. It's one of those things that just as, it's and as you said, Luke, I said it's the gameplay that sells it. To be honest with you, and what I've seen from, at least I said from the complete edition, if they want to kind of expand the graphical fidelity and change things like that, they'll probably do that for, say, like the complete edition. If you're enjoying the gameplay as you're seeing here, you're not going to worry about it too much. You're going to be too busy enjoying slaughtering people and going through the worlds and looking at the multi-layered levels, because that's another thing I spotted here, isn't it? Have you seen videos like, see the rooftops and the fact that it has that multi-layered levels which they seem to like to. That's one thing that I really enjoyed with Wulong, was that I jumped down, attack a boss, and then all of a sudden VJ would jump down and also attack him, sort of thing. It's just
tell the truth. I'd
together.
attack removable. Tell the truth, removal. I'd attack you instead of the NPC, right?
It's
hello, Indie
yeah.
Gamer. We haven't forgotten you. See you later, Daz. I can see the chat. Just there we go. Sorry.
Chat, it's basically the chat's. It's it's too engaged in this lovely game here, isn't it?
Exactly. It's
But no, it's a shame it's not out on Xbox. But yeah, I must admit I am kind of a little bit jealous for you guys and that on PlayStation. So please do keep me informed. Yeah,
Yeah.
Not as
because
informed as I kept you on.
it does look
Not
good.
as informed as you know what happened when I kept you informed of God of War, right?
Yeah, it was literally. I think at the moment I think we're probably on what clip number 72.
yeah. Your phone's like my phone was filling up. I had to remove a lot because it was filling up my phone with videos of God of War.
I was sending them clips every day, Luke, of God of War, because
It's a good-looking
they're
game,
obviously
though,
never
isn't
going to
it?
play it. Well, they might never.
Yeah.
They will probably play it one day, but they don't play on PlayStation, right? So,
Oh, what a good
and I'm
game.
pretty much on my own. So I was just like, and I don't link any social accounts to my consoles. Never got
Yeah.
around to it, to be
Well,
honest.
if you want to just send me clips, I'm quite happy just to watch clips of
Okay,
of what-
okay,
that
I'll do it.
game.
You say
yeah.
that now. You say that now, but when it hits when it hits about the 500th clip, you know. No, I must admit, VJ does. He does help us showcase off some of the different aspects of the game because you do pick out some really nice juicy bits for us to look
It's
to mull over.
it's just it's like it's not the oh, here's my fight and this, that, and the other. Sometimes
No,
I see things like like textures and sort of the way that they simulate certain materials. And I don't you don't see them very often, and if you do see them, sometimes they you sort of forget to notice them because they might be in the middle of a frantic boss fight. So I do sometimes send certain clips with certain intentions, but at the same time, it's just so wonderful to look at. Like the fur,
Yeah.
for example, on one of those
Yeah.
dogs, and the hair, and sometimes the way that we talked earlier about Final Fantasy and God of War, the way the scenes transition from gameplay to event sequences so seamlessly. Sometimes I'm thinking, do I have to pick up the controller? I'm not. Yeah, I have to start moving forward because I think the game's crashed, for example. So it's just it's not something you'll always find in game reviews because they don't even really talk about that stuff, do they? They just say, oh yeah, you got these weapons and you'll fight this boss and it's 25 hours long, the music's good. They don't really go into as much detail as I'd like them to, but I guess they're not really paid to do that. You do, yeah, but I mean, just like the people that were actually given the content and massive media packages, right, to review the game for them. Because
that's the trouble is though trying to go through that. I mean, it's when you try to go into that level of detail, which I do. It's really hard to basically. I'm not say keep consistent, but it's hard to gauge how picky you're going to be talking about stuff and how people you think are people really interested in this part of the factor, or are they trying to into this bit of it, or are they not going to be interested in it? And I've just basically gone to the point now where I'm interested in being that Nicky and Pity, so I do it anyway. But I can understand why some people don't do that. It's like because Luke, you're probably able to see this as well. It's like, do you find that a lot more people now are becoming not less engaged, but their focus is becoming less?
In what context?
In general, when it comes to content, in general, how they are, you're seeing like shorter ads, but more ads. TikTok is a perfect example where things are so shortened now. It's it's to keep interest. It seems to be.
I love
It's a much
by the
more.
way. It's great.
What's that?
I like TikTok. It's great.
Oh, it's just
It's dangerous.
I can't do it. I'd literally, I kind of like the 20-minute or some of the best reviews I've seen. It's bad. I know some of the best ones I've seen in terms of reviews. They're almost an hour long. But I know lot of people don't like that sort of thing.
But actually, removable, I would counter that and say that, and I don't know if Luke and Lord Stubbs of Rutland would agree, but I thoroughly enjoy the retrospectives of games a year on or 2 years on, and some of those have got millions of views. So I would say that people are interested, and I do it because it's part of my background, and secondly, I do it because I like the games industry and it's an interest of mine, and thirdly, I do it because I know might be on a podcast, and I'd like to express some level of sort of coherent, observation rather than just about, oh yeah, that looks nice. Oh yeah, that's great. Oh yeah, I've got to get that. I mean, otherwise, what's the point of having a conversation? And then
I think
if I say something, then I might learn something from you, and so on and so forth. Right?
I mean,
Yeah,
Luke, do you find yourself preferring long form content over short form content? How do you?
Yes, I mean I do, but then I'm
You.
me, aren't I? Yeah, so like I'm just I mean
Well, basically, am I preaching for the choir then? I'm really with you, aren't I?
Remember, I was going to say I do because I have a lot of long haul flights to make.
Yes, yeah, to pour over these gigantic video. No, but like yeah, I mean I do because I'm particularly in gaming. I'm an enthusiast.
There's
right?
one long
Yeah.
haul flight VJ we're really impressed with you. Somewhere you're going to.
Oh yeah.
He'd love it.
Oh yes, yes. I'm going to Tokyo at the end of the year, VJ, for the first time.
My
So,
goodness. Have you ever been before?
no, it's the first time.
Oh, you'll love it. I spent a lot of time in Tokyo.
I knew you'd love it.
Enjoy.
Yes.
Is it work or pleasure?
It's pleasure. Yes, it's a bit of a dream trip.
Is it a week? Is it like a week long thing? 2 weeks, month?
10 days.
A month. Come on.
Tokyo, or are you going to Kyoto or Osaka or anywhere else?
We're going to we're staying in Tokyo. We're staying in Roppongi specifically. But or just outside Roppongi. But we'll be going to Osaka, I think, and
Bullet
maybe
train?
Kyoto. Yeah, bullet train.
Bullet train?
Yeah.
You'll love the bullet train. Because when you come back, we'll all be hearing from you on these podcasts. Is about people will ask you a random question about
debrief after your holiday. You're like, he needs to come on.
We'll be asking him, what would be the sequel to Rebirth be called? He'll say Bullet Train.
Bullet train. Yeah, I'm quite looking forward to going on the bullet train. I must say.
So here's one for you, Luke. Obviously, you're going to Tokyo. Are you one of these people who is now using the internet to really research it, or are you going to?
Yes.
Are you more of the chaos type that's like, no, I'm just going to go in blind to some degree and kind of?
I think I could go in blind to most places pretty well. I don't think you could go into somewhere like Tokyo blind without knowing at least something. So I'm not prepping for it yet, but I will.
So are you? I was about to say, is there any particular content creators out there that you are cruising over at the moment? I would say.
No, not at the moment. I don't tend to do that. So I don't like, if I'm going somewhere I've never been, I don't tend to look at like someone on YouTube or a content creator. I just tend to go online and just look at the place. Look at like cultural spots, and then figure out where I am relative to those spots, and do all of that and that kind of stuff. And that's exactly what I mean. Like there's certain things I know I want to go and do in Tokyo, for example, and experience. But that'll be, I'll discover that myself and be like, okay, well, I'd like to go and do X, Y, and Z.
The reason I was seeing is that recently in Japan, and this only came out I think about this week, because one of the content creators I do watch is Broaden Chan, and he has actually stated that due to some foreign content creators going out in Japan, certain places have now been restricted to foreigners because of their bad behavior, which is clearly just absolutely distressing for any decent tourist out there. that these minorities are going out and causing problems for the rest of it. So I'm hoping that maybe that some of these areas will be opened up to you by the time you get there, because he said it was like December time. Is it you going there?
September. I'm going.
September. Yeah. Well, I hope it is, but it's just one of those things that it's like that recently. I think it came up recently this week that actually Japan's locked down certain areas because it's like certain bloody YouTube individuals going out to Japan causing problems.
What I would say,
Luke
what I
will be
would say,
fine, I think.
what I would say
I'm
to
very
that
sensible.
regard, Luke, is when I first went to Japan in the 90s, actually even in Kowloon side in Hong Kong, spent a lot of time there. I used to go to restaurants and I used to land in Kai Tak Airport, and there'd be no signs in English, but you'll be happy to know that they've obviously remedied that. But one of the things I will tell you from staying in Japan is the fact that people say, "Oh, the Japanese are a bit odd. They don't take kindly to foreigners." It's not true. They don't mind foreigners at all. The number one thing that they ask of you, which is a kind of an unwritten rule, is kind of pertaining to what removal is saying, is just respect their rules. That's all it is. And I've been there enough times. I know exactly what removal was speaking to, not in terms of content creators, but people that come from other countries that don't respect the rules that everybody there abides by. And it just makes it just for a far more pleasant day-to-day experience. And so because everybody does it, when someone from overseas comes across and does something alien and something which is quite rude, you shouldn't really even be doing it in your own country, for littering, for example, throwing cigarettes on the floor or chewing gum and spitting it out, because people do it everywhere still. It's just those sort of basic things, right? People can see everybody, nobody else does it, but they feel that they can, and that's what kind of gives the stigma, right, to people that come from overseas, is that okay? So what do we expect? But I'm sure if you
I'm not saying Luke would ever do anything like that. He seems very much more of a culturally respected person. But what I'm saying is,
they'll love Luke because they'll see he's got a Steam Deck and he'll say this guy's extremely cultured.
That's it. Yeah, that's it just reminds me. Is it? Am I correct? Isn't it one of the biggest? Is it like tech and gaming devices is in the middle of Japan? Is it in Tokyo?
Akihabara, yeah.
Are you going there, Luke?
Yeah.
Are you?
I'm sure I will.
You'll love the retro shops for sure.
Yeah.
Retro gaming shops, you'll love those. Yeah.
Because isn't it like 8 floors of just pure tech, and it's like gaming, and it's literally 8 or 9 floors of just stuff like that, and it's like I wouldn't say they're cheaper, but it's a little bit cheaper, but it's just like they're in pristine, isn't it, in terms of retro stuff as well? All their stuff is like.
I mean, one of the reasons the main reason we'll go to Osaka probably just for the day or maybe 2 days is to go to Super Nintendo World, for example. So that's like the main driver is just to get the bullet train and go and do that for a day or 2. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it.
Sorry, Luke. I don't.
Yeah,
it might be very difficult to get tickets. I can't remember how it was, but there's also. If you're into it, I don't know if you're aware. There's the Ghibli Museum as well.
Oh yes, that'll be one. Yeah. My wife in particular will be. I'll need to stock up on yen for that.
Without a doubt, you're going to go in there and come out with just enough stuff to probably fill a suitcase alone.
You're paying extra baggage.
Funnily enough, we actually so we're going away next week as well, not to Tokyo, but we bought a new suitcase, a bigger one, and specifically one of the rationales was we'll need this when we go to Japan. Yes, there will be a large suitcase required for the amount of.
It makes sense. So is that a subtle hint to the panelists then to put our order in now?
You can do, yeah, but I'll have to give you the bank details so you can
God.
Yeah.
It'll be like Samwise Gamgee's says in Lord of the Rings. Yeah. It'll be a real eye opener for you.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, it's one of the things I wanted to do.
on YouTube. You can speak to people, but
Yeah.
there's nothing quite like it's like just like a video game, Luke. There's
Yeah.
nothing to prepare you for once you land in Tokyo. Once you're off the airplane, as soon as you hit customs, you'll be like, "What the hell is going on here?" But not like as in surprise, but with glee, right, and excitement.
Are you,
Yeah. Yeah.
Luke? Are you a fan of the food delights out there? Are you a rabbit?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
Very much
good.
so.
Yeah, so
both me and my wife are. So we're finally.
proficient in chopsticks, might I add. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we're pretty, and you know what, we're pretty good actually. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to tasting like a proper, authentic ramen, for example. And my wife is a huge sushi fan, also
Oh,
ramen
wow.
as well, but and tonkatsu and those other delights. So yeah, very much so. I think, in fact, that's usually whenever we go anywhere, that's usually one of the things I'm most looking forward to is the food. So
But that's the thing. Is that's it? You've got to go out there to enjoy some of those delights. You know that it's. I think what it is, at least what I always hear about it is that it's done because they put in so much perfection to it, because it's done with so much care and specialism. You know, whatever you're going to get, it's going to be amazing, isn't it? It's the same thing. It's just like it's just going to be one of those things that you're gonna. I'm dribbling now thinking about it. Oh, thank you very much. We have a nice one.
Even their
Yeah.
coffees something to behold. Even like if you're just staying at a hotel coffee, it's just like wow.
Don't say that to me.
Oh, it's
'cause
the
I'm
coffee
a
connoisseur,
huge,
Lucas. Go on.
huge fan. I'm looking forward to going away next week
And
to
Starbucks. I mean, I'm not a massive coffee drinker, but I can tell you because obviously Starbucks here, and then I went to Japan.
Yeah.
And Starbucks there, and their
Definitely.
coffee shops, and they may all have French names and everything, but when you go in, their desserts, their coffees, they're not quite like what you're used to over in England, but
Yeah.
on a more, it just depends on your taste buds really. But I found it just quite lovely. And in Osaka, I think at the station they have this really famous Japanese curry place. I don't know if you like that sort of thing,
Nice.
but
I do.
but the thing is, I'm just worried because if I keep talking about food, if me and Move will keep talking about food, you'll come back and say, you know what, my waist size has doubled since in 10 days.
It's going to be a
Yeah.
I don't
Luke.
think
When Luke comes back and I'll be like, right, VJ's on, Luke's on. I'll come back when it's time to turn the stream off.
Yeah.
I
send
don't
you some
think it is
pictures,
though.
VJ.
I don't think you're going to get fat in Japan. It's just I don't see how you're going to do it. I think the food's so well prepared, so it's not full of fat, isn't it? Like I think the food out there, from what I'm gauging, it's so lean anyway. I don't think even if you really stuffed your face, I think you can be hard pushed to really gain weight in Japan, isn't it?
I think that the difference tends to be, at least when you go on places like that, like we went to Las Vegas last year and ate very decadently, but we didn't actually put on any weight because we were walking so much all the time everywhere, and I suspect it will be the
because
same
you're forever
in Japan,
moving
'cause
around,
you're
forever
always
kind of
moving, and so but I'm sure you could easily pile on a few pounds if you weren't careful. I'm actually going to I'm not looking forward. I can't wait until next week, but I'm actually going to New York next week.
Nice.
So I suspect I will come back at least 4 or 5 stone heavier. But that's mainly because that's New York. So yeah, Japan, I wouldn't expect it, but I'm sure I could, if I get addicted to ramen over there, then I'll.
But their
I'll
sizes
probably
aren't big. Their sizes are quite large as well, isn't it? Though that's the thing, because when you see like the ramen over here, because even they're like
I've never
what's it
tried
like
ramen or any of this food
oh
you're talking about.
no, if you,
Sushi,
yeah,
none of it.
over here it's smaller. I would say it's almost smaller portions. What I'm gauging.
Depends
Because
though,
they
doesn't it?
actually put it in a proper bowl, isn't it? It's actually a proper deep bowl, and
you get bigger broth over there.
that's what's so that's what I'm saying. So it fills you up more, because isn't it?
Yeah.
Again, VJ, no. If you isn't it a sign? Am I wrong in this? Is that completely finishing a bowl means? Is that a bad sign?
No,
VJ?
I thought that was in a Chinese restaurant. If
Was
you
that Chinese?
finished-
No, I'm thinking Chinese.
I think if you
yeah,
finish everything, they get offended. They think you're not giving you enough food. They do. That was what I was always told. I might be wrong on that.
I don't know, but I just some of the foods I see out there, 9 times out of 10, their plates have normally left a little bit of food left anyway, sort of thing. So I'm just like, oh, clearly they've had a really good,
I believe
good
in
meal,
nothing.
sort of thing.
I'm
Believe in
demolish it
nothing.
all. I'm going to demolish every
You'll be
scale
licking the
that they got
bowl.
there. Yeah. I just
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I was used to go on the bullet trains, and I can't remember if the airport train, because that's wonderful as well. But the bullet trains, there's a lady that goes up and down every now and then with loads of just like Willy Wonka's sweet shop, really, with loads of.
yeah. I saw this. Sorry to interrupt, but didn't they? There's a special kind of cart, isn't there, that they wheel
That's
up and
right.
down? And I remember I saw there was they took. I can't remember where in Japan. It may have been Tokyo, it may have been somewhere else in Japan. But they took like these routes off service and were just stopping like the trains or whatever, and they were selling off the carts, and they were attracting like really massive bids for these carts because they're very like nostalgic for people, and also they're just kind of cool carts. So yeah, but they wheel them up and down with like just a bevy of different sweets and other treats, right? Like the most souped up aeroplane carts you've ever seen.
Wow.
Anything I didn't
Yeah.
recognize, I would buy and bring back, because just, I mean, where I live, I'm fortunate where I live, because I live like right in the trifecta of Koreatown, Chinatown, and
Oh,
Japantown.
darn.
So I've got all these authentic cuisines where I live. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I often say to Removable and Stubz, I really miss British fare. But
You asked me what a black pudding was one day and sent him a picture. What's that black thing?
So,
It's a black pudding.
so but you know, so a lot of the stores where I live, they predominantly like Japanese stores, and they only have confectionery from Japan, or obviously all the sushi and everything's local here, but there is still items in Osaka, because you'll find there's a really big difference. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but between Osaka and Tokyo, you'll experience that for yourself. But on the carts, and even the one that's are on the trains, whenever I see anything that's remotely interesting, be they confectionery, or be they drinks or cans I haven't seen before, you can bet your yen that it'll be in my bag or on my little tray ready for consumption, because the journey's beautiful. There's no one speaking on the mobile phone. Not allowed to step outside, etc., etc.
Not allowed? Is that not a thing?
No.
Oh, that's good.
No. I've seen foreigners do it, but also on those trains, Luke, keep your eye out, because you very may well see developers, right? And you can spot them from a mile away from all the different studios, because Capcom, Platinum Games, Nintendo,
Kojima was there. He'd be running straight up.
Konami, they're all based in Osaka, and obviously the bullet train is where I've mentioned it on the show before, where I've been on, and because all the industry knows each other, so you have people from Level 5 and Capcom speaking to people from Sega, from Tokyo, because all the developers they're all on the same. It's the same like highway, right?
Nice.
Bullet train highway that everybody takes every day, several times a day. In the morning to get from one city to the other. So yeah, keep your eye out for some autographs if you're inclined. I'm just kidding, but
yeah. Oh yeah, I think funnily enough, Kojima's studio is in Roppongi. I think that's where Kojima Productions are. So
you see Luke walking past it back and forward.
Yeah,
he's not gonna walk past it. He's already got himself for like a sit down meeting with Kojima or something like that.
No, I got myself a tent to wait outside and wait for him to come out, and then I'll grab him.
Who's the guy who hosts the Game Awards?
Jeff Keighley.
Yeah.
Yeah, Luke's probably got a called his best mate Jeff in it and said, "Keighley, what are you up to? I'm going over Roppongi. Get me hooked up."
Yeah, get me some of that Death Stranding 2 private showing.
But anyway, it's been a great show. 2 hours and 23 minutes. It has. I think I'm going to wrap it up there, because we've been going.
You can blame Luke for just providing us, all Japanese talk.
We covered gaming, Japan, food, all sorts today.
Book one in.
Book
I
one
was
in.
going to say, could we book in a show for September so we could do one when Luke's live in
Oh
Japan?
yeah, don't, because he'll try and do a live stream. He'll know what it is. It's like
He won't
you're in
speak properly.
Japan, do a live stream from
I
Japan.
don't even know what the
He'll have too
time
much
difference
food. He'll have
is.
too much food in his mouth to talk properly.
I'll be 95% tonkatsu by then, so
Yeah.
I won't be able to communicate.
Oh,
But anyway, yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
it's been a good show tonight. We've covered gaming, we've covered Japan, we've covered food, we've covered all sorts tonight, which is always good. It is. I like to cover a variety. I love the way the conversation goes naturally, whichever way we feel. We're not like boxed into whatever topic, but we've covered a variety of different topics. It's been fun, it has. So, Luke, thanks for coming on. Do you want to tell? Actually, sorry, before I do, Indie Gamer actually said, hang on a minute. There was a Steam sale coming, and I'm sure. Yeah, there we go. It's meant to be on the. He said it's on the 14th. He thinks a Steam sale.
Nice.
So that sounds good. Hopefully, there's some good games on offer. I'll be having. That's Thursday, isn't it? I looked it up.
Yeah, it'll be the spring one, I think. So
Hopefully
that'll be
it's
a
a
good sale. There'll be some good stuff there.
I'll be having a look at that. I will definitely.
Yeah.
But yes, thanks for coming on, Luke. Always like you to come on. I'll get you on more. Been a while, so I'll get you back on. I will definitely. But yeah, thanks for coming on. Do you want to tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for having me. Yeah, just follow me at LukeSteele90 on Twitter, and also go and look at the Indie Gamers channel, the Indie Game Podcast, because we just did one recently. We're back, and we'll be doing one hopefully on a monthly, regular basis. That's the aim. But Indie's also got some really good reviews up there. Really good Ultros review, for example.
I've still got to complete that.
So.
I've still got to get back on that. I do like that game. It's very good.
Well, it doesn't have a MOS charger, so you might have a chance.
The amount of hours I've got in
the
it.
tutorial.
Well, you could look at the amount of hours I've got in that game and you'd probably laugh, but I am trying. I do like it. It's probably an easy game for you. Probably pass like indie. You'd be like, it's easy.
Yeah, I haven't picked it up yet. Actually, I will do, but I haven't picked it up yet. I need to get through Pacific Drive and everything else that's coming out first. But that will be maybe that's a playing game. Maybe I'll play that. Maybe I'll play that. But yeah, so yeah, go and follow me in those places. And yeah, thank you for having me again.
That's good to have you on. And Removable Sanity. Thanks for coming back on.
Much appreciated. It's obviously a big thank you for Luke coming on and giving us his thoughts and his impending Japanese trip, which I am absolutely envious over. That's one place I want to go. I really am envious for it, and definitely have to hear all your thoughts when you do get out there and come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you are interested in chatting with me or talking to me, you can find me obviously on here or on Twitter, Rumble, YouTube, and Minds under the name Removable Sanity.
Good. Thanks for coming on, Removable. And VJ, thanks for coming on. It's been a fun conversation, as always.
Thank you, Mr. Stubbs, because I think you brought up a fantastic topic at the end, by mentioning Luke's holiday, because I think that's one of the...
I did tell Luke, because I said VJ's going to absolutely love it when he hears you're going there.
It just brought back, it's just like listening to Luke and listening to Removable and yourself. It just brought back some wonderful times that I had there. And it's just fantastic. And then you were playing the Persona 3 trailer there, and I had no idea that they did a crossover, and all those dishes that they mentioned. I've kind of
was it? Yeah, I was talking about food, and it's bloody right on the screen. It's for crying out loud. This is it.
What's this trailer here? It said ramen. It did, so I clicked it.
Yeah, no, but all the dishes that they've named are dishes from the game. So, it's and that's one of the reasons why I like the Persona games, because they really people may make suggestions in terms of assumptions in terms of what this game is, etc., etc. Oh, this is weird, but if you actually play the Persona games, they actually educate you in Japanese culture without you even realizing. And that's probably why I haven't really switched over to anything else.
Now I do
at the
notice.
moment.
I have a look every time I go on my Xbox. It normally says you're
I have to
playing.
call Stubs to tell me how many hours I've got in a game because I still can't figure out how to find it for myself. There you go.
I'll have to have a
No,
look
I
at
really
that.
appreciate that, Mr. Stubbs. And yeah, it's like you just never know what life's going to happen. I had no idea Luke was going to Japan. He obviously kept it quiet.
He did, and he texted me. I said, "Oh, wait till VJ finds out." I said,
That was probably the most
Kept stum.
yeah, one of the most one of the best topics that you've brought up.
it wasn't meant to
whenever
be
we
a
have a-
topic, but it just in Britain passing. I didn't
No,
know if
no,
Luke was going
Do
to
you
tell you.
honestly
why I like
think if Luke
why I
talks
really
about
like this show.
Japan, we ain't going to talk about it? I mean, come on. Do you not know us by
Probably
now?
why I mentioned it at the end. Probably. That's probably what
Yeah.
it would
You
have been
know
the
our
whole
show,
At the
podcast.
start, yeah.
Yeah.
This is true, yeah.
There's been times when we've had a gaming show, we don't talk about games, right? And that's why I really like it. It's just like having a chat and not under pressure to talk about anything specific. It's just someone will say something and we just go off on so many tangents. It's it's fantastic. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
No, it's always good to have everyone on. And you can follow me on this YouTube channel at Stubs Gaming and on Rumble and Stubs Gaming and on Twitter at Stubs Gaming 01, I think it is. But yeah, we'll be back next week. And thanks everyone in chat. Indie Gamer, Luke Steele, who else? There's been loads in chat, to be honest. UK Dazzlers, Ducky Love, Scott was in there briefly. Fimber, going back up the chat. Pinky of Legend, thanks mate for popping in. And I think that's it. And Mike NLG over on Rumble. And if I missed anyone, sorry about that. I will try and engage with the chat more. It's my fault. And I should just chat in the chat as well when people are talking. But anyway, people know what I'm like. So thanks everyone. I'll see you next week.